Chapter 2057. Yunjian's voice was flat and monotonous, but it was as cold as ice in February. It was so cold that everyone in the bus, especially Shen Qingjiang who sat in front, Kai Xinyuan, and Wu Zhizhi beside him, shuddered from the bottom of their hearts. What do you mean? Wu Zhizhi had yet to catch on to what Yunjian meant. Your stuff? No, that's New Cruise's stuff. It's Brother Zhang's stuff now. Since when did it become yours? You can't be the director of New Cruise. Kai Xinyuan was so fat that the lumps of fat on her body started jiggling after she spoke. She shook her fat body and scolded Yunjian with a manly rough voice. Everyone in the bus did not think that Yunjian was New Cruise's director. After all, her age was obvious. New Cruise was an international brand. If Yunjian was New Cruise's director, she would have started New Cruise at the age of 15, right? What kind of joke was that? I'll give it to you. Put the knife down and I'll give it to you. Shen Qingjiang was still afraid of death. His pupils shrunk slightly as he stuttered. Give it to me first. Yunjian's words left no room for argument. Shen Qingjiang, who initially wanted to trick Yunjian, was afraid that the knife would be blind. Moreover, it was just a piece of scrap paper. He had brought it along because he liked the supercar's blueprint. It was useless to him. Clearly, Shen Qingjiang did not know that the piece of scrap paper he thought was worthless would fetch a sky-high price in the international market. Shen Qingjiang reached his hands into his shirt and pants pockets and searched around for a while. He then glanced at Yunjian. Seeing that Yunjian was staring at him, he slowly passed the blueprint to Yunjian. Yunjian took the blueprint from Shen Qingjiang's hands and kept the butterfly knife. She was so fast that no one could see when she put the knife away. By then, the bus had driven into the bumpy, uncemented, and muddy land ahead. As soon as the big bus drove into the bumpy muddy ground, the whole bus started to sway left and right, causing the whole bus to jolt. Some of the students sitting on the bus didn't react to the sudden jolt, and their bodies involuntarily fell forward. Shen Qingjiang was sitting in the middle of the last row of the bus. There was no seat in front of him. The person standing straight in front of Shen Qingjiang was Yunjian. As the bus jolted, Shen Qingjiang was jolted along with it. He rolled his eyes and wanted to take advantage of the bumpy road to pretend that he fell forward and accidentally fell on Yunjian. In the bumpy ride of the bus, Yunjian retreated to her original seat in the front row in a few flashes without a care in the world. Shen Qingjiang missed the bus and fell face first onto the dirty floor of the bus. Ah! Shen Qingjiang was in so much pain that he could not stand up for a long time. Initially, he wanted to pounce on Yunjian and rub her voluptuous breasts. But he did not expect Yunjian to react so quickly. In the end, Kai Xinyuan, Wu Zhizhi, and the other girls helped Shen Qingjiang up. Sit tight and don't run around. The next 3 hours will be bumpy road. The driver shouted as he drove. This time, the university students organized a support program in the countryside. The teacher followed along and was now sitting at the front of the bus with his eyes closed. After the bus drove into the bumpy mountain road, many students who were sleeping woke up with a start. What's wrong? Why is the bus shaking? Liang Xiaomin, who had been sleeping and did not know what had happened, woke up with a start. By the time everyone came to their senses, the car was already shaking left and right. The bus swayed and swayed for about 3 hours on the deserted road. They arrived at the destination of the program, Wuzhen in City W of H Province. Chapter 2058. Wuzhen was located in the middle of a rugged ravine. It was a very remote and barren place. It was different from Xinjiang town where Yunjian was reborn. The wealth gap between Wuzhen and Xinjiang town was huge. Compared to Xinjiang town, Wuzhen could not even be considered a town. Wuzhen was surrounded by mountains and the roads were rugged. The people relied on their own sowing and harvesting to survive. There were no large textile factories in Wuzhen. Just imagine, from Wuzhen to the remote suburbs of City W, it took 3 hours by car. No large company would choose to invest in Wuzhen. This was truly a poor mountainous area. How poor was it? The people here, be it the elderly or the children, had never walked out of the mountains in their lives. The transportation here was very inconvenient. Occasionally, there would be people who would go to the city to collect on Mondays, but they would drive vehicles like tractors and tricycles. A normal bus would take 3 hours. Driving such a vehicle to the city would take at least 2 to 3 times longer than the bus. Moreover, taking a tractor to the city was expensive. The poverty here was beyond imagination. No news report could fully describe the hardships of the people at the bottom of society. Yunjian had thought that Xinjiang town was already considered poor. After all, to her, who used to be at the top of the world, Xinjiang town was a stark contrast. However, in comparison to Xinjiang town, Wu town paled in comparison. Oh my God, are we really going to stay here for the next 7 days? This house is made of mud, right? What if the house collapses in the middle of the night? We'll die. And this road is full of potholes. There's not even a cement floor. The students exclaimed when they saw the scene before them. Although he was prepared, he was still shocked when he saw the scene in front of him. How was this a house? The houses in Wuzhen were all made of mud. Occasionally, those who were better off lived in stone houses. As for a brick house to the people of Wuzhen, that was simply impossible. All right, I'll bring you to Wuzhen's mayor. He'll arrange a place for you to stay. The only teacher leading the group led the students across the potholes of the mud towards the mayor's house. Soon, the students were all settled down. Wuzhen was a town. There are also villages here. Some of the students were taken to the village children's homes. Wuzhen had a combined primary school and junior high school. If the children who lived in the village did not live in the school, they had to walk for about 2 hours every day to get to Wuzhen. The distance from Wuzhen to the outskirts of W City was far enough. Those poor children from the mountainous areas lived even deeper into the mountains than Wuzhen. Yun Jian followed him for about 2 hours on the mountain road. Finally, she was taken to a village that was 2 hours away from Wuzhen. Some of the students refused to go to the village no matter what, so the mayor arranged for them to live with the best families in Wuzhen. But to be honest, the family conditions in this place were not that different. Of course, Wuzhen could not accommodate so many people, so the mayor led Yun Jian and the others to Dali village, which was the nearest village to Wuzhen but was still a 2-hour walk away. It was not easy to walk at night, but with a lantern, they could still walk. I can't walk anymore, Liang Xiumin panted. She could not keep up. The extra rooms in Wuzhen had already been taken by other students. Liang Xiumin was complaining about her father the whole way. She complained as she walked. Don't talk when you walk, or you'll be more tired. Yun Jian helped Liang Xiumin walk up a steep slope. Little girl, you know so much at such a young age. It's rare. The mayor led the way with a lantern and could not help but exclaim. College students nowadays were spoiled. After walking so many mountain roads, it was normal for them to be like Liang Xiumin. There were not many who could endure hardship like this little girl. Chapter 2059. The mayor even made fun of them as he spoke. The mayor's words eased everyone's mood a little. Now, walking on the mountain path that went up and down was no longer as boring as it was at the beginning. Most of the people stayed in Wuzhen. Only a dozen people followed them to Dali village. Fortunately, it did not rain during the day, so the mountain path was not slippery. Everyone was exhausted from the climb. 2 hours later, amidst the crowd's repeated questions about their arrival, the mayor brought them to a small village. This was Dali village. Compared to Wuzhen, this place was even more desolate. Even the mud houses had become houses that only the rich of Dali village could afford to live in. Many people in Dali village lived in shabby thatched huts. The mayor went from house to house and asked people to arrange accommodation for Yun Jian and the rest. Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin were arranged to live in the same house in Dali village. After the mayor reminded them, he went back to Wuzhen. The dozen or so college students who were arranged to live in Dali village were all told by the mayor that the children of these families would cross the mountains alone the next day to study in Wuzhen. When the time came, Yun Jian and the rest would follow their children to Wuzhen Primary School to meet up with the other college students who were here to teach. By then, the mayor had already left. Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin were sitting at the wooden table in the house they were arranged to live in. It was already 11 o'clock at night. The children and farmers in the mountains all went to bed early. They went to bed as soon as the sky turned dark. Today's incident was sudden. The mayor woke up the people in these houses and arranged for Yun Jian and the rest to live in. At this moment, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin were sitting on the only 2 wooden stools in the thatched hut. An 11-year-old girl with rosy cheeks and a dirty face was standing in front of them. The girl's clothes were faded. One of her big toes was sticking out of the shoe because the shoe was broken. The shoe was also covered in mud. It looked like it had been worn for many years and was no longer fitting. In this cold and windy weather, the little girl only wore 2 pieces of shabby and dirty clothes. Her small body could not stop shivering. There was a rotten smell in the thatched hut. Liang Xiumin couldn't help but cover her mouth and nose, breathing softly. However, since she was lodging in someone else's house, Liang Xiumin was too embarrassed to say anything. She could only blame her father. This is not a place for people to live. This was a pigsty. After a long silence, the little girl greeted Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin fearfully. "Hello, sisters. Where are your parents?" Liang Xiumin covered her mouth and nose as she asked the little girl. Yun Jian blinked but didn't say anything. If one were to ask Yun Jian how she felt about this place, the answer would be simple. She had once walked at the peak of the world, becoming an existence at the top of society that everyone looked up to but could not reach. He had once been at the bottom of the valley. When he first joined in Hun, his status was even lower than a dog's. Therefore, to her, no matter what the situation was, she could accept it. When Liang Xiumin asked this question, the little girl fell silent. Just when Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin thought that the little girl would not answer, she suddenly sobbed. "There's only me, my brother, and my grandmother at home. My father is dead, and my mother doesn't want us anymore." As she spoke, the little girl shrank back in fear. Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin later found out that the little girl's father had accidentally been crushed to death when he moved rocks in town to earn money. Her mother had run away with someone long ago and left the mountains. There was only a bedridden grandmother to take care of. Not only did the little girl have to bring her brother to school in town, but she also had to work in the fields whenever she was free. Otherwise, the family of 3 would starve to death. After the little girl finished speaking, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin fell silent for 2 seconds. "But Ying, don't be afraid. Grandma said before that my mother will definitely come back." The little girl's name was Lu Ying. It was a very beautiful name. It was said that before her mother ran away with someone else, her father and they had asked a cultured person in Wuzhen to help them give her the name. Lu Ying's eyes were clear and pure, something that other children didn't have. This touched Liang Xiumin's heart. Yun Jian also blinked. "Then where did your mother go?" Liang Xiumin couldn't believe that Lu Ying's mother didn't want her anymore. She asked again. When Lu Ying heard this, she fell silent for a few seconds. Then she shook her head. "I don't know, but my father said that my mother will definitely come back. My mother won't abandon us." Chapter 2060. Lu Ying's clear and firm eyes made people unwilling to break the only wish of this innocent little girl who missed her mother. Her wish was very simple. She wanted to live happily with her mother. Lu Ying's younger brother was called Lu Shi. The names of the 2 siblings were given by the cultured people in Wuzhen, so it sounded pretty good. At night, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin were placed in the same room. The room was dark and damp. In the middle of winter, the 2 of them shared a quilt that had already been covered. The quilt smelled like someone had covered it. It was very smelly and very thin. "This place is so shabby. The quilt that was given to us is so thin and cold. And it's so smelly. The room is as smelly as a pigsty. I want to go home." Liang Xiumin shrank her body. It was already the 100th time that she tried to dial the phone in her hand. However, there was no signal here at all. The phone could not be dialed. Not to mention the phone, there was not even an electric light here. They relied on candles for illumination at night. There were not even many candles. They were used sparingly. Liang Xiumin was a rich young lady. Naturally, she could not stay in such a place. Yun Jian could understand. After the quilt was covered, Yun Jian turned sideways and said to Liang Xiumin, "Sleep." At 1:30 in the morning, Liang Xiumin, who was still groggy and sleepy, gently pulled Yun Jian. "Can you accompany me to the toilet? I'm a little scared." If she wanted to go to the toilet at night, she had to walk a few hundred meters before there was a latrine. There was no toilet at home. Yun Jian was used to wearing clothes at night. She turned over and stood up. Although Liang Xiumin did not understand why Yun Jian did not change into pajamas to sleep, she did not ask. After returning from the toilet, she happened to pass by the room of the little girl, Lu Ying, and her brother, Lu Shi. "Sister, I'm so cold. Brother, be good. You won't be cold when you sleep. Go to sleep. If the quilt was on the body, no matter how cold it would not be so cold that he could not sleep. Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin could see through the thin gap of the window made of wood and paper that could not block the cold wind from blowing into the room. Lu Ying and Lu Shi did not cover themselves with anything. They only wore 2 more layers of clothes. They huddled together and shivered. The 2 extra layers of clothing were so thin that they were no different from not wearing anything at all. They were as thin as a piece of paper. Even an idiot could tell that the 2 young children had given up the only blanket that Liang Xiumin had complained about being thin, smelly, and dirty just now to Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin. Both Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin felt like they were deeply touched by something when they witnessed the scene. Even Yun Jian's face could not help but change. Liang Xiumin turned to glance at Yun Jian before she dashed into their room. Carrying the blanket to Lu Ying and Lu Shi's room, she tossed the blanket on their bed right in front of the couple. Liang Xiumin didn't know how to speak. By the time she reacted, Lu Ying and Lu Shi were already staring at her in a daze. Liang Xiumin made up her mind. She closed her eyes and said stubbornly, "I was woken up by the smell of this blanket." Humph. With that, Liang Xiumin ran back to her and Yun Jian's room. An 11-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy stared blankly at Liang Xiumin, who despised their quilt, running back to her room. They did not know what to do. Yun Jian, who was hiding in the dark, saw this and narrowed her eyes. Liang Xiumin was clearly freezing to death, but she still wanted to return the quilt to Lu Ying and Lu Shi. Her words were so harsh. However, it really did seem like her temperament as a young lady. Liang Xiumin was cold and did not sleep that night. The next morning, after Lu Ying made breakfast and fed it to her bedridden grandmother, everyone sat at the table and had breakfast. Breakfast was porridge. There were no side dishes. Rather than porridge, it was more like a pot of water with a small handful of rice in it. It was a fragrant tea made from rice. Eating this would not fill one's stomach, but at least one would not starve to death. Before going to Wuzhen, Lu Ying drew a line on the wall next to her house. Half of the wall was already covered with countless Zhang characters. After Lu Ying finished this line, she pulled her brother and led Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin to the mountain path in town. When they were about to reach school, Lu Ying's footsteps became lighter. Liang Xiumin could not help but be curious and asked Lu Ying, "Little girl, what did you draw on the wall just now?" "Wait for Mom to come back." Lu Ying pulled her brother and walked briskly. She walked in front and suddenly turned her head and smiled at Yun Jian and Lu Shi, revealing her small canine teeth. "Before Dad left, he said that as long as I filled the wall with Zhang characters, Mom will come back." Some people lived a luxurious life and ate fish and meat every day. But some people had very small wishes. No matter how poor and bitter they were, they only wanted their parents to grow up with them. Chapter 2061. They left at 4:30 p.m. and finally arrived at Wuzhen Elementary School at 6:30 p.m. Wuzhen Elementary School was different from other elementary schools. There were very few children in Wuzhen, and the number of people in each grade was not enough to form a class. So in Wuzhen Elementary School, grades 1, 2 and 3 were in one class and grades 4, 5 and 6 were in one class. There were only 2 classes in the entire school. A place like Wuzhen Elementary School lacked teachers the most. But most of the teachers who graduated from universities did not want to come to such a poor mountainous area. Now, there were only 2 teachers in Wuzhen Elementary School. Other than the principal, there was also a female teacher who volunteered to come to the poor mountainous area. Seeing Lu Ying and Lu Shi enter the classroom, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin did not plan to follow. There were no activities on the first day of going to the countryside. All the university students who went to the countryside to teach gathered here and were immediately dismissed. From the second day onwards, every university student would be officially arranged to tutor the children here. Since they had nothing to do, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin went to town to buy a few large quilts. They also bought new quilts for Lu Ying and Lu Shi's grandma. At this moment, the 2 were passing by a large bamboo forest. There was only one bed and quilt shop in Wuzhen, and the bamboo forest was a must. There were trees planted all around the bamboo forest. The biggest difference between Wuzhen and other small towns was that there were a lot of bamboo and trees. The surrounding grass was also as tall as a person. If someone was hiding in the grass, it would be hard to find them. It's so easy to get them. These 2 women came here on their own. They're so F***king soft. I heard that they're female university students from the city. Knock them out. We'll take one each and F***ck them again after we're done. Just as they passed by the bamboo forest, two voices came from the corner. Liang Xiumin naturally could not hear the whispers, but Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After taking 3 steps forward, a gust of wind came from behind. Yun Jian did not even think about it. She grabbed Liang Xiumin and threw the quilt to the side. She turned sideways and flipped over a dozen meters with Liang Xiumin in just 3 seconds. When the 2 ruffians from Wuzhen saw this, they were shocked. This girl is so fast and fierce. These 2 old ruffians were old bachelors. Both of them had achieved nothing in their lives and could not afford to marry a woman. They had only slept with the lonely widows in town a few times. When the 2 old bachelors saw Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin's soft and tender skin, their nether regions began to itch and they began to have naughty thoughts. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian found out. TSK, female university student, you're so F***king soft and tender. Let me tell you, people rarely pass by this place. Today, it's useless even if you scream until your throat breaks. One of the old ruffians looked at Yun Jian with a lecherous gaze. Who says there's no one? I won't let you bully them. Just as Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, a righteous male voice sounded. Next, she saw a masculine and righteous man. The boy was about 20 years old. He was quite handsome and gave people the feeling of a gentle senior. Senior Mu Qiao? Liang Xiumin was stunned when she saw the boy. Senior Mu Yong was a student of Liang Xiumin's school. He had only greeted Liang Xiumin twice, but they were not familiar with each other. Tiskeg boy, you're courting death. However, the 2 old ruffians did not wait for Liang Xiumin and Mu Yong to speak. They rushed over and gave the defenseless Mu Yong a few punches before tying him up. What should we do? Liang Xiumin saw that Mu Yong was tied up. She was so frightened that she grabbed Yun Jian's hand and pulled Yun Jian back to the bamboo forest. Yes, what should we do? He, you two should just follow us. Our big brother has been lonely for so many years. It's not easy to catch you. Let us have some fun. One of the old ruffians walked over with a smirk. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin was even more frightened. Let them go. Let them go. Hit me. Hit me if you have the guts. Let them go. Mu Yong shouted when he saw this. The other old ruffian stepped on Mu Yong's head and viciously stomped on Mu Yong a few times. He shouted, Boy, behave yourself. Otherwise I'll kill you. After that, he tied Mu Yong to a tree and continued to walk toward Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin. Little girl, what are you thinking? Want to escape? No way. If you know what's good for you, come here obediently and let us kill you. Otherwise, the old ruffian saw that Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. He laughed. I'm thinking about how to kill you. Unknowingly, a butterfly knife appeared in Yun Jian's hand. She played with the butterfly knife and suddenly spoke. The 2 old ruffians were startled. But the 2 old ruffians were also frightened. Naturally, they were not afraid and continued to walk toward Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin. Little girl, we are frightened. Let alone you, even if an assassin agent comes, I'll kill her. The 2 old ruffians sneered and continued to walk toward them. Is that so? What a coincidence. Yun Jian played with the butterfly knife twice and stood in front of the old ruffians. Then, in front of the few people present, she spoke fearlessly. But what she said made everyone present stunned. In the 7 years since my debut, I've taken on 1027 assassination missions and annihilated 109 assassin organizations. I don't know if I'm the same as the assassin agent you said. Chapter 2062. Yun Jian was 18 years old this year. She started killing people when she was 12 years old, which meant that she started accepting missions. She was 16 years old before her rebirth and 15 years old after her rebirth. After 3 years, her current body was 18 years old, but if she started her career, she would be 19 years old now. So it was not wrong that she started her career 7 years ago. And these 1027 assassination missions were from 109 assassin organizations. The assassination missions were calculated according to the missions accepted on the International Assassin website. In other words, after the Holy Spring and her rebirth, Yun Jian almost never accepted assassination missions. This was her previous record. As for the 109 assassin organizations, they were all the assassin organizations she had eliminated in her previous life and all the assassin organizations she had eliminated after her rebirth. Not to mention the fact that ordinary people would find this data unbelievable. Even in the assassin and agent circle, it was a level that no one could surpass. Even though Yun Jian had not returned to the assassin and agent circle for 3 years. A true legend was not just a legend for a short period of time. Becoming a legend at the fastest speed and falling at a shocking speed was not something a strong person should do. Even though she had been missing for 2 years, once she returned, she was still a legend that no one could surpass. She was still the king of secret agents. Yun Jian had done this. At this time, after hearing Yun Jian's professional words, the 2 old ruffians' hearts skipped a beat. Even Liang Xiumin's expression changed slightly in shock. The agent Yun Jian was talking about should be the special forces, right? Mu Yao, who was tied up by the 2 old ruffians, also widened her eyes in shock. She had to admit that Yun Jian's words were too unbelievable. She was an assassin or an agent? Was this for real? The 2 old ruffians still had some common sense. Although the people in Wuzhen were poor and had a hard life, that was only limited to the honest people. Like these 2 old ruffians, they usually tricked the people who went to the city to deliver goods to and from the city for free. Or they would go to someone's family to steal some money. They had done such things many times. They had been to the city a few times and had seen more than those who had never left Wuzhen in their lives. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the shorter old ruffian glanced at Yun Jian. Little girl, don't bully us because we are from Wuzhen. We have been to the big cities. Some people are not so easy to fool. You said you are an assassin agent? Who are you trying to fool? Aren't you just a university student who came from some place? Do you think we are fooling you? You think you can pretend to be an assassin with a knife? I grew up scared. As he spoke, the short ruffian wanted to go over and snatch the butterfly knife from Yun Jian. The taller old ruffian also went over to help him. Liang Xiumin was in Wuzhen, but she was in Wuzhen. Yun Jian was still here and so was Senior Mu Qiong who had saved them just now even though she failed to do so. The 2 ruffians went to Yun Jian right under Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu's eyes. However, before anyone could react, Yun Jian, who was standing not far away, gave a cold red arc. In the next breath, everyone could only feel their clothes being blown by a sudden strong wind, and their skin that was stuck to their clothes felt cold. In a speed that no one could see clearly, Yun Jian suddenly stretched out her hands and held a butterfly knife in each hand. She quickly walked to the front of the 2 old ruffians and held the butterfly knife with both hands. She slid the blade of the butterfly knife from the 2 old ruffians' navels to their hearts. At the same time, she was facing the 2 old ruffians. As she moved her hands, she lightly kicked the ground with her legs and did a somersault. She did not touch the 2 old ruffians at all and flipped over their heads. Hiss! When everyone reacted, the 2 ruffians' clothes were torn by Yun Jian. By the time everyone realized what had happened, the clothes of the 2 old ruffians had already been torn apart, and the place where the last cut had been made was precisely where their hearts were. If the blade had slid a little deeper, then they... When the 2 old ruffians realized this, their faces turned pale. At this time, Yun Jian, who was already standing behind the 2 old ruffians, spoke in an extremely calm voice. That voice was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper chopping down on people's heads, with a frightening magic. Want to go to hell and try it? Chapter 2063. I'll send you to hell for free. Just when the 2 old ruffians witnessed Yun Jian's perfect knife skills, Yun Jian's voice came from behind them. That chilly tone that did not contain the slightest hint of a joke was like the Grim Reaper from hell with a scythe in his hand. It was as if that soul-shaking sound had come from the hall of hell. The 2 old ruffians widened their eyes and their frightened bodies trembled. You, who are you? Even the female university student who fell behind is not as good as you. Are you a university student or not? That short old ruffian slowly turned around. He didn't have time to cover his exposed skin, but exposed his hairy chest in front of everyone and said in a daze. Female university students were usually delicate girls who studied in school. Usually, after running 800 meters, they would be so tired that their chest heaved up and down and they would gasp for breath. These 2 old ruffians, however, were genuine farmers. They did rough work every day and had done rough work all their lives. Not to mention other things, they were full of strength. At least, that female university student was powerless in the hands of these two old ruffians. But just now, when the two of them were dealing with Yunjian, they couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. Furthermore, she actually jumped up and flipped over their heads at the same time, using the two butterfly knives to cut open their clothes. What kind of speed and strength was this? But even so, these two old ruffians didn't believe that Yunjian was an assassin or a secret agent. Whether I'm a university student or not, haven't I already said it? Yunjian was already standing in front of the two old ruffians. Her hands nimbly and freely played with the two butterfly knives. She played with the extremely difficult butterfly knives incisively and vividly. Then Liang Xiumin and that senior named Mu Yong saw such a shocking scene. Yunjian took 2 steps towards the two old ruffians. The two old ruffians were so scared that they took 2 steps back. This was a sharp contrast to the two old ruffians' arrogance at the beginning. You two old ruffians. Could it be that the female university student you're talking about has already been? When Liang Xiumin heard that the two old ruffians had just met a female university student, she was so scared that her face suddenly changed. Since the short old ruffian said that the girl who fell behind wasn't as powerful as Yunjian, it meant that the two old ruffians had already done something to her. What the two old ruffians wanted to do to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin, they must have already done it to the female university student who was left behind. It's her fault for wearing so little. She's only wearing a pair of shorts and long flesh-colored socks in the middle of winter. The women in our town don't show their thighs even in summer. It's as if she's not wearing anything. She's not trying to seduce us, she just wants us to do her. What else can she do? The short ruffian still had a reason to quibble. This short old ruffian had a lot of chest hair, the kind that was thick and dense, looking like the body hair of a gorilla. Of course, the short old ruffian's chest hair was concentrated on one point, which made him look even more disgusting. Hearing the old ruffian's words, Liang Xiumin was so scared that she almost cried. After all, Liang Xiumin was a pampered person and had never seen such a scene. She felt sorry for the unfortunate female university student, but she was also afraid that if Yunjian didn't have the ability to do so just now, then wouldn't she and Yunjian? I don't care what reason you're using to clear your name. Since you've touched someone, you should pay the price. As Yunjian spoke, her cold eyes deepened. She held the butterfly knife and walked towards the two old ruffians. You, what do you want to do? Let me tell you, it's illegal to hurt someone. The two old ruffians were so scared that they retreated. Mu Xiao, who was tied up by the two old ruffians, was stunned when she saw this. But in the next second, Mu Xiao heard Yunjian say, "Is rape not a crime?" At that time, have you ever thought that you've already committed a crime? These words made Mu Xiao want to clap her hands and cheer. But Mu Xiao was tied up. But at this moment, Mu Xiao suddenly saw Yunjian holding 2 butterfly knives and directly stabbing them into the thighs of the 2 old ruffians who were about to retreat. Ah! Ah! 2 screams pierced through the sky. Blood flowed out. But Yunjian didn't care about this at all. After she took out the 2 butterfly knives, she turned around and faced the 2 old ruffians with her back facing them. She sneered. "I'll cripple one of your legs. In order to repay the surprise you gave me just now, I'll return the favor. If someone passes by here and saves you, you're lucky. If not, then go to hell." Chapter 2064. These words were as plain as a wisp of smoke, and then there was no more sound. But these extremely plain words carried a sense of fear that made people have no choice but to take them seriously. Yunjian had just stabbed the knife into the thighs of the 2 old ruffians, and then pulled out the butterfly knife directly. This back-and-forth action left no way for the 2 old ruffians. If the knife was directly stabbed into their thighs and not pulled out, there would still be a chance for them to survive. After all, the blood in their thighs would not flow out so quickly. But once the knife was pulled out, the blood in their thighs could not be stopped. If no one passed by here to save the 2 old ruffians in a certain time, even if they were not sent to heaven by this knife, they would die in the situation where their blood ran out. At first, the 2 old ruffians had said that few people would pass by here. This was also the reason why the 2 old ruffians chose this place to attack Yunjian and Liang Xiumin. But it was a pity that the 2 old ruffians must have never thought that their previous plan to attack Yunjian and Liang Xiumin would backstab them. As for why Yunjian did not directly kill the 2 old ruffians, it was because she wanted them to watch her die. There was no death more terrifying than watching one's own life slipping away bit by bit. And Yun Jian hated people like these two old ruffians who attacked girls when they saw that they had no strength to truss a chicken. This kind of people were the worst. You want to kill us? If you want to kill us, quickly save us, quickly save us, quickly save us. The pain from the knife in their thighs made the two old ruffians roll on the ground in pain. Not to mention standing up and walking. Even their vision gradually began to blur. Their tone of speaking was even more vague, and even they did not know what they were saying. Let's go. In exchange, Yun Jian's cold and indifferent words were what they got. Yun Jian's words were directed at Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin was a spoiled young lady, and she had never seen such a scene. She screamed in fear from the moment Yun Jian stabbed the butterfly knife into the thighs of the two old ruffians. Not to mention at this moment, when she saw the two old ruffians' thighs bleeding non-stop. To be honest, Liang Xiumin's soul was almost shaken out of her body. Still not leaving? Seeing that Liang Xiumin did not react for a long time, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Go, go, go. Go. Liang Xiumin did not dare to look at the two old ruffians who were screaming and ran to Mu Yao. After she untied the rope for Mu Yao, she wanted to leave with Yun Jian. I will not let you off. Even as a ghost, I will kill you. Seeing that Yun of Yun Jian, of Yun of Yun of Liang, of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun, of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of people of Yun Jian of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun, Yun Jian, let's go. I'm scared, Liang, she of Yun Jian of Yun of Yun Jian of Yun of Yun Yun. Are you going to save them? Then let me help you. After all, if these two people really die here, sooner or later, something big will happen. Mu Yao thought that Yun Jian of Yun Jian had stopped to find someone to save the two old ruffians. After all, if they killed people, they would be discovered sooner or later. With the current situation of these two old ruffians, if they really left without asking, the probability of them dying was very high. Mu Yao turned around, wanting to help send the two old ruffians to the small clinic in Wuzhen. Just as Mu Yu turned around, she saw Yun Jian turn her head and shift her stunning side profile to the two old ruffians in front of everyone. She sneered and spoke frankly to the two ruffians, saying something that shocked and horrified everyone present. What do you think? Many people have said the same thing to me, but they are all dead now. You two don't matter. Chapter 2065. Based on Yun Jian's words, everyone present, including Mu Xiao and Liang Xiumin, could not help but panic. An emotion called shock swept over them. How many people had Yun Jian killed? Or to put it in another way, what kind of place did she grow up in? Why did she have such shocking strength and skills? Mu Xiao had clearly seen that Yun Jian did not even blink when she stabbed the two butterfly knives into the thighs of the two ruffians. There was only coldness and indifference in her eyes. It was as if she had just stabbed an ant with the butterfly knives. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she did not wait for the two ruffians behind her to hug their thighs and roll on the ground while saying something. She waved at Liang Xiumin and Mu Xiao and quickly left. Before Liang Xiumin left, she ran over to pick up the newly bought blankets. She did not dare to turn her head to look at the knife wounds on the two ruffians' thighs. She only lowered her head and hurried to catch up with Yun Jian. On the way back, Liang Xiumin remained silent. Liang Xiumin was a missy after all. When had she ever seen such a scene? Even the scene of a butcher slaughtering a pig would probably make Liang Xiumin pale with fright. Yun Jian had just stabbed a living person's thigh. Yun Jian, is it really okay for us to just leave like this? Liang Xiumin turned her head to look around in fear. She hugged the blankets and followed beside Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. She did not say anything else. A strange light flashed across Mu Zhao's eyes. It was only then that Mu Yu pointed at Yun Jian and said, "Those two are too shameless. If it weren't for her, we would have really died today. Don't care if they live or die. They deserve it." Moreover, a female classmate who came with us was tragically killed by them. That girl's pure and innocent chastity was sullied by those two things. Such people should die. Mu Zhao's words made Liang Xiumin's eyes move slightly. Yeah, if it wasn't for Yun Jian today, we would have ended up like that female classmate. I would have died. Liang Xiumin thought that if her innocence was taken away by that old ruffian before she gave it to her boyfriend, Ji knew, she probably didn't want to live anymore. At the thought of this, Liang Xiumin was so frightened that her body trembled. Thinking about it this way, those two old ruffians really deserve to die. Just don't know what happened to the girl who was taken away by the old ruffian. Senior Muyu, no matter what, thank you for today. At this moment, Liang Xiumin suddenly remembered that Mu Yao had rushed out to save her and Yun Jian. She turned her head and thanked her. The eldest miss would sometimes restrain her emotions and thank others. It's fine as long as you guys are fine. Haha. Mu Xiao rubbed his head and laughed. His head had just been stepped on by one of the old ruffians, and now his hair was covered in dust. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin was even more grateful. Just as they returned to the vicinity of Wuzhen Primary School, one after another, noisy screams were heard. It seemed like something big had happened. When Yun Jian and the other two came to the side of a short mud house, they saw a college girl standing on a steep cliff not far away. This cliff was about 6 stories high. If one jumped down from it, they would definitely die. At the bottom of the cliff, which was the short mud house, there was a group of people surrounding it. A few college students who came with Yun Jian were standing there. They were so frightened that their faces were pale. However, they were desperately shouting for the female student who was standing alone on the cliff to calm down. Sure. Don't be agitated. What exactly happened? Don't jump. Don't jump. This was the cry of the female student who wanted to jump down from a high place to commit suicide. Io, what exactly is going on? How would I know? I just came over and saw this little girl wanting to commit suicide. How old is she? She's so noisy. She came to our Wuzhen to commit suicide. If something really happened, what should we do? This girl from the city is really difficult to deal with. Chapter 2066. Except for the female university student who was standing on the high ground with a face full of tears, as well as the friend who was desperately shouting the name of the female university student. Many gossipy women in their 50s or 60s in Wuzhen were standing on the side, watching the show and pointing. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were watching a show. This group of gossipy women had no intention of rushing up to save her. But some of the men around had already taken measures to save her. There were also some people below who helped to persuade the female university student who wanted to jump off the cliff. It's dirty. I don't want to live anymore, it's dirty. The female university student standing on the cliff kept shaking her head and muttering these words. The bystanders couldn't understand what the female university student was saying, and thought that she was crazy. She actually wanted to jump off the cliff. Yun Jian, who happened to be passing by, narrowed her eyes. If she guessed correctly, this female university student was the one who was defiled by the two old ruffians. Some people valued their chastity. If they lost their chastity, they would rather die. But some people thought that life was more important, and chastity was nothing. Everyone had their own aspirations, just like how radishes and vegetables each had their own preferences. Everyone's mentality was different. But since she was standing on the cliff, this female university student must be someone who valued her chastity very much. She did not jump, of course, because she was afraid and did not want to die. Could she be? Liang Xiumin suddenly saw the female university student standing on the cliff. Thinking back to the two old ruffians she met just now, she fiercely trembled. This female university student must be the one who was defiled by the two old ruffians. Otherwise, why would a perfectly good girl want to commit suicide? And it was so good that she chose to commit suicide at this time. Seeing this scene, Liang Xiumin suddenly felt that Yun Jian's way of dealing with the two old ruffians was not too ruthless. She was hurt to the point of wanting to commit suicide. Those two old ruffians deserved to die. What should we do, Yun Jian? Liang Xiumin was a little scared and did not dare to look at the cliff. She was afraid that the female university student would really jump off like this. Let's go. Yun Jian's indifferent voice sounded, and then she had already walked away. Liang Xiumin was stunned. Isn't it too immoral to turn a blind eye? Shall we go over and help? Obviously, Mu Xiao was not very satisfied with Yun Jian's current performance. Unexpectedly, just as Mu Ming finished speaking, Yun Jian's voice rang out. If she wants to die, no one can save her for the rest of her life. Even if he was saved this time, what about the next time? What about the next time? Yun Jian's words stunned Mu Xiao. After recovering from the shock, Mu Xiao lowered her eyes and did not speak again. After that, Mu Xiao and Liang Xiumin followed Yun Jian back to Wuzhen Primary School. The moment they were about to enter the school, Yun Jian suddenly spoke, leaving behind a sentence that made Mu Yu and Liang Xiumin feel relieved for some reason. She doesn't know how to jump. Wuzhen Primary School. The students were still in school. In the dilapidated field, a large group of girls sat together to listen to Shen Qingjiang's bragging. Ever since he successfully stole something from New Cruz, Shen Qingjiang felt more and more that he was suited to be a master thief. At this moment, Shen Qingjiang was showing off his ability to steal in front of the girls. Obviously, the girl who jumped off the cliff was not with Shen Qingjiang's group. Come. Have you hidden the coins properly? It's time for me to show off my amazing stealing skills. Shen Qingjiang rubbed his hands. A smug expression appeared on his not-so-handsome face. The girls could not wait any longer and all of them responded. Good. Next, put your hands on top of mine. I'll steal the coins from you in the shortest time possible. As Shen Qingjiang spoke, the girls placed their hands on Shen Qingjiang's hands without any warning, as though they had heard a cult. Meanwhile, Yun Jian and the other two had just walked past Shen Qingjiang's group. On the other side, Shen Qingjiang took the opportunity to secretly touch the hands of this group of silly girls a few times. His other hand, on the other hand, quickly and skillfully, secretly took out coins from the girls' pockets. About 2 minutes later, Shen Qingjiang, who had finally found all the coins on the girls, shouted, "All right. I bet you guys didn't notice that the coins are on me." After saying this, Shen Qingjiang spread out his hand, wanting to show the coin to the girls, causing them to scream. When he opened his hands, the coins were gone. How could they be gone? That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. The coins were behind me just now. How could it be? Shen Qingjiang shook his head absent-mindedly. It was then that Yun Jian, who had walked 5 meters away, turned around under Mu Xiao and Liang Xiumin's bewildered gazes. She stretched out her hand and scattered the handful of coins on the ground in front of everyone. She smirked. Is this what you're looking for? When did you take the coins? Why are they with you? Shen Qingjiang's expression changed drastically. I'm the disciple of the international master thief, Lam. If you stole something from me, I definitely feel it. How could this be? Shen Qingjiang revealed his secret in his nervousness. Hearing Shen Qingjiang's words, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. Lam from the fox hunting organization? In the next second, Yun Jian's beautiful voice resounded through the whole place. The fox hunting organization was the biggest international master thief organization. How did you know? Shen Qingjiang was shocked again. Then he frowned and said, Since you know how powerful my master is, how dare you? This was already his biggest secret. He had never told anyone. How did she know? However, as soon as Shen Qingjiang finished speaking, an even more shocking scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. In the next breath, Yun Jian, who was standing on the other side, suddenly curled her lips into a red arc. Her cool expression coupled with her melodious voice spoke arrogantly to Shen Qingjiang, surprising everyone there. You're right. There's no one in the world that I, Yun Jian, don't know. Not to mention Lam, the master thief of the fox hunting organization. Even the boss of the fox hunting organization has to kneel in front of me. Your master is just a member of the fox hunting organization. Why wouldn't I dare? Chapter 2067. Since Shen Qingjiang claimed to be Lam's subordinate, he must have heard of the fox hunting organization from Lam. Although the fox hunting organization was an organization, it was different from the Enhun organization and the Kosha mercenaries. The fox hunting organization only accepted things that their employers wanted to steal or treasures that they wanted to find. Other than that, they never accepted missions like killing people. Obviously, at this moment, other than Shen Qingjiang, who was half in the circle, the girls around Shen Qingjiang, Senior Mu Yong, and Liang Xiumin didn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words. But the people around them weren't stupid. Although they couldn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words, they could still roughly understand what Yun Jian meant. What she meant was, not to mention Shen Qingjiang's master, Even the boss of Shen Qingjiang's master's organization had to kneel down when he saw Yun Jian. Was she even an international person? If that was the case, then who was she? She actually had such an ability. Compared to the others, Shen Qingjiang's face had gone from being rosy at the beginning to pale and lifeless at this moment. He always thought that his master Lam was his biggest trump card. It was also because of this that Shen Qingjiang didn't brag about his master even though he had bragged to the outside world. This was because Shen Qingjiang felt that the trump card and the killer move had to be taken out at the last moment. Only then would it be enough to make people go crazy. But Shen Qingjiang never thought that his trump card, his biggest trump card, would be hit by Yun Jian's words. Even his biggest trump card, Lam's boss, was defeated by Yun Jian. Plus, when he came here, Yun Jian's behavior on the bus. At this moment, Shen Qingjiang didn't dare to treat Yun Jian as an ordinary female university student anymore. How do you know everything? You know that my master Lam is from the fox hunting organization. Could it be that you also know the fox hunting organization's master? But even so, Shen Qingjiang didn't dare to think highly of Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and said in a daze. Could it be that Yun Jian was also a disciple of a godly thief in the fox hunting organization? So, she was able to steal the coins that he stole from the girls without him noticing at all? Shen Qingjiang found it inconceivable. It was only by chance that he managed to become the disciple of god thief Ram. He had originally thought that this was his own capital. But Shen Qingjiang never thought that. There was actually a girl who had also worshipped the thief god as her master. Moreover, the other party's standard was even higher than his. Although Shen Qingjiang was very unhappy, after knowing the so-called truth, he tried to please Yun Jian. It was my fault before. I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. May I ask, according to seniority, are you my junior sister or senior sister? Also, junior sister, who is your master? Do you know my master? Not to mention other things, Shen Qingjiang thought that Yun Jian was also a disciple of a master thief in the fox hunting organization. Therefore, when Shen Qingjiang spoke, there was a hint of flattery in his tone as if he was talking to a family member. Of course, this made Shen Qingjiang even more proud. At the same time, Shen Qingjiang even heard the girls around him boasting about him with even more exaggerated words. However, just as Shen Qingjiang was enjoying this feeling, Yun Jian's words were arrogant and brash. Her arrogance carried an absolute aura, as well as a sense of awe that made people have no choice but to submit to her. She said word by word to Shen Qingjiang, who was in a fantasy, in front of everyone, "How can a small fox hunting organization trap me? If I want, I can take over the fox hunting organization at any time. Ram was blind to take you in. But it doesn't matter, I will make him cut ties with you. You want to have a relationship with the fox hunting organization? You are not worthy." Chapter 2068. After all, the fox hunting organization was the largest organization of thieves in the world. Moreover, there were at least 1,000 thieves in the fox hunting organization. Every single one of them was the cream of the crop in the world of thieves. Yun Jian could recite the information of anyone who had some international reputation. Shen Qingjiang's master, the man named Lam, was actually at the bottom of the hierarchy in the fox hunting organization. Otherwise, the real top figures in the fox hunting organization would never have taken someone like Shen Qingjiang as their disciple. Yun Jian's words were like the worst nightmare in Shen Qingjiang's ears. To Shen Qingjiang, having his master as the master thief of the fox hunting organization, Lam, was the most honorable thing for Shen Qingjiang. Shen Qingjiang didn't even hesitate to hide this layer of his identity. He wanted to wait for the right time to reveal this layer of his identity and surprise the group of girls around him. Then, their impression of him would rise sharply. However, Shen Qingjiang had never expected Yun Jian to appear. Judging from Yun Jian's tone, could she be even more powerful than the fox hunting organization? "Who the hell are you?" Shen Qingjiang looked at Yun Jian and asked in a daze. The more he wanted to know about Yun Jian's identity, the more he wanted to understand it. If she was not a master thief, why did she have such frightening skills? Liang Xiumin had naturally heard her father mention Yun Jian's identity as an advanced special forces soldier. Liang Xiumin did not say a word at this moment. She hugged the quilts and stood where she was, waiting for Yun Jian. A trace of doubt flashed across Mu Yu's eyes, but she did not say anything. When Shen Qingjiang asked the last question, Yun Jian had already turned and walked toward Liang Xiumin. Halfway there, she stopped and turned sideways, exposing her beautiful side profile to Shen Qingjiang and the group of girls standing beside her. The red arc of her lips curved slightly. The next second, she gave a mesmerizing smile and said, "I'm the owner of the sports car design you stole." It was hard to tell what she meant at first, but if one thought about it carefully, they would be horrified. "I stole that design from New Cruise, so its owner should be the director of New Cruise. Could she be? She's the director of New Cruise." Shen Qingjiang thought about it carefully and finally guessed this. He shouted these words in front of the group of female students around him in horror. When he lifted his head to look for Yun Jian, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu, he realized that Yun Jian and the other two were long gone. In the field of Wuzhen Primary School, Shen Qingjiang, who had lost all his face but was in a mess at the moment, as well as the doubtful female students, were left dumbfounded. At that moment, Yun Jian's group, Yun Jian's, and the girls' class. The classroom here was very shabby. The classroom was also a mud house built with simple mud. The door of the classroom was a wooden door that had not been painted. The tables and benches were broken, making creaking noises when one sat on them or placed their hands on them. Just the sight of it was enough to scare one. It was a miracle that one did not fall off from sitting on the benches. There was not much light in the class, but the children were studying seriously. They did not even notice Yun Jian's group entering the class. Lu Ying was skinny and not tall. She sat in the front row. She was an 11-year-old child, but due to her stunted growth, she looked like an 8 or 9-year-old. Her thin clothes covered her body, and the cold wind that blew into the room from outside the window made her shiver from the cold. Chapter 2069. Of course, Lu Ying was not the only child who was shivering from the cold. A large group of children in the classroom were all wearing thin clothes, huddling in the thin clothes that could not even keep them warm. At that moment, every child maintained the same action, which was to flip through the colorful textbooks under their hands, unwilling to let go. These textbooks were bought from a donation program organized by a few universities in Jiang City, and brought to the poor mountainous area of Wuzhen as a gift for these poor children. The children had never seen such colorful textbooks before, and were so excited that they did not even want to raise their heads. "It's the big sister and big brother who gave us the colorful textbooks." Yun Jian had just walked into the classroom. Even the teacher standing on the podium did not notice her and Liang Xiumin's arrival. A mischievous little boy suddenly shouted. Then the children sitting in the classroom saw this and carefully took out their folded paper from their drawers, running towards Yun Jian and the other two. "Thank you, big sister and big brother, for the colorful textbooks. We really like them, but we don't have anything to give them to big sister and big brother, so we folded them ourselves. We hope you like them." A cute little girl stretched out her dirty little hands, holding a folded paper crane with both hands, and handed it to Yun Jian. In her clear eyes, there was an innocence that the children in the city would never have. The little girl's hands were dirty, and there was a stench on her body, as if she had not bathed in a long time. But Yun Jian did not say anything and took the paper crane from the little girl, giving the little girl a smile. "Thank you." The paper crane was very light, and the origami was very tattered. It was obvious that the little girl had hidden this origami for a long time, folding and unfolding it again and again. Now, the little girl had given her favorite treasure to her. "It's good that big sister likes it." The little girl stuck out her tongue playfully. These children used origami to fold many animals and gave them to Yun Jian, Liang Xiumin, and Mu Yu. Although the things were small and did not have much value, they were mixed with the children's thoughts. This was the closest and most authentic gift that the children from the countryside could give, and money could not buy. They might not have the money to return better gifts, but the children's gifts were one of a kind. "Children, there are many big brothers and sisters over there. Give them all the origami you worked so hard to make last class." At this time, the teacher saw Shen Qingjiang and many university students from the city standing on the field through the window. The only female teacher other than the principal gestured to the children. "Presents for big brother and big sister." All the children ran happily to the playground. "Big sister, come with us." The little girl who gave Yun Jian the paper crane just now pulled Yun Jian's hand and ran towards the sports field. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu followed Yun Jian. At that time, Some children had already found their big brothers and sisters who hadn't received any gifts and gave them the hand-folded paper that they had painstakingly cut. The university students who came from the city to teach took the origami paper that the children had cut with great difficulty. This was a beautiful scene. Even Yunjian could not help but smile. She had never known that in a place so poor that even food and clothing were a problem, there was such a group of kind and innocent children. Children might live in the lowest level of the world and not be liked. But they had the innocence and kindness that ordinary children did not have. Liang Xiumin was touched. The high and mighty young miss didn't think it was dirty or ugly. She took the paper cut from a child. What the hell is this? It's so ugly. Don't touch my hands with your dirty hands. How long has it been since you took a shower? It stinks, it stinks. Get out of my way. I don't want this cheap product. A shout of abuse sounded. On the other side, an elegant and beautiful girl with a slender figure was standing there. She scolded the child who handed her the origami paper, then avoided the child with clear eyes and a face full of anticipation as if avoiding the plague. The girl who scolded the child was none other than Wu Zhizhi, who had scolded Yun Jian when Yun Jian asked Shen Qingjiang for the design on the bus. Chapter 2070. Wu Zhizhi looked at the child's outstretched hand as if she had seen a river beast. However, unlike the river beast, Wu Zhizhi scolded and retreated in disgust. The child, who had reached out to Wu Zhizhi and wanted to hand her the folded paper that she had painstakingly cut, only to be treated like this by Wu Zhizhi. She froze in the same position as when she reached out her hand to hand over the folded paper. Like the other children, this child was dirty and looked like he had not bathed in a long time. Wuzhen was not a coastal area and water was scarce. No family dared to bathe in a basin full of water. In that case, it wouldn't be a problem of cleanliness anymore. Even whether they would starve to death or die of thirst would become a problem. Therefore, the children here would at most use a small handful of water to wipe their bodies during the festival. They did not dare to use it too much. The other university students who came with Yun Jian would not say such things in front of the child, even if they despised the child for being dirty and smelly. Did Liang Xiumin not despise it? Liang Xiumin, who had been spoiled since she was young, despised it more than anyone else. However, she would not say such things in front of the child. She would not hurt the child's young heart in such a cruel way. After Wu Zhizhi's heartless words left her mouth, everyone around her was stunned. The child was also stunned. Wu Zhizhi, what are you saying? How can you say such things in front of such a young child? Even a girl who came with Wu Zhizhi could not stand it anymore and started to criticize Wu Zhizhi. However, before the girl could finish speaking, Wu Zhizhi spoke first. I didn't say anything that I shouldn't say. Am I not telling the truth? Moreover, my father is the richest man in Jiangqing. If you let me come into contact with these filthy people, what should I do if I get a disease? My father reminded me before we came. A rich young lady like me won't stoop to your level. I have to protect myself. As Wu Zhizhi spoke, she raised her head proudly and talked in a circle in front of Yun Jian. In fact, Wu Zhizhi was already displeased with Yun Jian when they were on the bus. Shen Qingjiang's boasting made Wu Zhizhi deeply believe in the cult. She believed everything he said. Yun Jian had treated Shen Qingjiang like that just now. Wu Zhizhi had long wanted to find an opportunity to make it difficult for Yun Jian. Even saying those cruel words to the child just now was just to draw out the following words. When Yun Jian heard that her father was the richest man in Jiang City, she seemed to blink her eyes. Wu Zhizhi thought that Yun Jian was shocked by her family's wealth. Thinking of this, Wu Zhizhi became even more smug. She raised her head and looked sideways at Yun Jian, then continued to speak to everyone with a smug expression. Before I came here, my dad donated 100,000 yuan to your poor mountainous area. I didn't do anything wrong. Logically speaking, you Wuzhen people should be the ones to treat me well. After all, my dad donated so much money. I stayed the night yesterday. Not only was the accommodation terrible, even the food was so bad that I couldn't swallow it. Wu Zhizhi's words seemed to imply that since her dad had donated so much money, the people of Wuzhen had to treat her differently from other university students. At this point, the people around them fell silent. The child who was rejected by Wu Zhizhi seemed to be frightened. He did not dare to speak for a long time. Then Wu Zhizhi looked sideways at Yun Jian and said, You were so smug in front of us just now. If you're so capable, Why are you still pretending to be the director of new cruise? How much did you donate when the school organized the donation back then? Yunjian was not in the school when the donation was organized. I didn't donate. Yunjian was not afraid and replied directly. Oh ha ha ha. You even made me think that you're the director of new cruise. What a joke. Qingjiang, did you see that? She was just trying to scare us. So King shameless. Wu Zhizhi became even more smug after hearing that. The people around them did not dare to say anything. Even the female teacher from Wuzhen looked embarrassed. However, just as Wu Zhizhi thought that she was invincible, she saw Yun Jian take out her phone from her pocket in front of everyone. Wu Zhizhi was stunned. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of Wu Zhizhi, smiled and said, "Thanks for the reminder. I wasn't in the school when the donation was made." It was clearly a thank you, but Wu Zhizhi shuddered after hearing it. Instantly, Yun Jian's smile faded. She dialed a number expressionlessly in front of everyone. Before the call was connected, she continued to speak to Wu Zhizhi. "However, your father is the richest man in Jiangqing. Donating a mere 100,000 yuan is too petty." Just as she finished speaking, Yun Jian's call was connected. Then, in front of Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and everyone else, Yun Jian spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. Her cold but commanding words echoed throughout the hall, indirectly giving Wu Zhizhi a loud slap. "Zhang Zhifan, in 3 days, donate 1 billion yuan to Xixiang organization in my name as the director of new cruise and send it to the poor mountainous areas. A. Chapter 2071. Without waiting for a reply, Yun Jian hung up and put her phone back into her pocket. It was as if nothing had happened. However, everyone's expression changed drastically at Yun Jian's words. Especially Wu Zhizhi, who had purposely picked on Yun Jian earlier. After hearing what Yun Jian said, Wu Zhizhi's expression changed from its initial arrogance to its darkest point. "Why, you're really new cruise's director?" The exclamation did not come from Wu Zhizhi's mouth. Wu Zhizhi was so shocked that she could not speak. How would she dare to speak? The person who spoke was none other than Shen Qingjiang. Did that mean that Yun Jian had heard him stealing something from New Cruise? Was that why she had attacked him? Shen Qingjiang was both afraid and terrified. He suddenly recalled that if Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, based on the company's current development, it was not unbelievable that his master's fox hunting organization would give her face. However, was Yun Jian really New Cruise's director? Wu Zhizhi couldn't say a word for a long time. Finally, when she saw that everyone was staring at her, she stammered, "You. Look. What are you looking at?" She said she's New Cruise's director, so be it. There's no signal here. Maybe she made a fake call just now. After saying that, Wu Zhizhi came to her senses. That was right. There was no signal in Wuzhen. Yun Jian's call just now must have been an act. Wu Zhizhi's confidence grew as she thought about that. She lifted her head again to look at Yun Jian and swore. "I was wondering why you hung up after saying that. It must be because you didn't make the call. If you call without signal, the other party won't even pick up. Ha ha ha. How dare you pretend to be New Cruise's director? What a joke." Wu Zhizhi's voice grew louder and louder. However, the moment Wu Zhizhi finished speaking, the only female teacher in Wuzhen Primary School, other than the principal, pursed her lips and added, "There's basically no signal in Wuzhen, but there's a small shop next to Wuzhen Primary School. There's a phone installed in that shop. That's the only phone in Wuzhen, so when the school has good signal, you can make calls from here." The female teacher's words made Wu Zhizhi, who had thought that what she said made sense, instantly shut her mouth. "When you came over this morning, the principal told me to remember to tell you about this, but I forgot to tell you. Student, I didn't say anything about this. How did you know that there was a signal here?" As the female teacher spoke, she turned to look at Yun Jian and asked. A normal person would not try every place after coming to Wuzhen the day before. Since there was no signal, they would not try everywhere. After all, mobile phones in this era were not smartphones. There were not many fun games. At most, one could make a call. There was no difference whether there was a signal or not. If it was smartphones nowadays, people would definitely run to Wutown to ask if there was any signal. Even if there was no signal in every place, they would still try it. After hearing the female teacher's words, Everyone turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who stood where she was, narrowed her eyes and gave a half-smile before she spoke up. Of course I saw the phone in the small shop near the school. If there was no signal, the phone wouldn't be placed at the counter. Since it was placed at the most obvious counter, it must be to attract customers to make calls there. Of course, there would be a signal. Chapter 2072. Yun Jian's words were very logical. Actually, many people could analyze it, but no one was as observant as Yun Jian. Take Wu Zhizhi for example. She had been acting like a spoiled brat since the beginning. Whenever she caught something that she thought made sense, she would assume that she was right. She had no ability to analyze logically at all. People like her would usually be in the worst situation after the truth was revealed. As expected, after the female teacher and Yun Jian finished speaking, Wu Zhizhi could not say anything else. 3 days. Let's wait and see. I'd like to see if the people from New Cruise will come with 1 billion. She knew it was impossible even if she thought about it. 1 billion. That was not a small number. Even if it was a huge international corporation like New Cruise that stood on the international stage, it was almost impossible for them to fork out 1 billion yuan. 1 billion yuan was on a completely different level compared to the 100,000 yuan that her family could fork out. Could Yun Jian really do that? After Wu Zhizhi said that to Yun Jian, she was too embarrassed to stay there any longer. Therefore she turned around to call her friend, Kai Xinyuan, who was so fat that her body would jiggle with every few steps she took. She left the place pathetically. After Wu Zhizhi and her friend fled, Shen Qingjiang also left with the group of girls in a panic. It was only when the group was far away that Liang Xiumin looked at Yun Jian and exclaimed excitedly, "Yun Jian, you were so cool just now. Haha. Didn't you see how green that girl's face was? I've never seen a rich girl who likes to throw a tantrum more than I do. I just can't stand her. That felt good. That felt so good." Liang Xiumin almost clapped and cheered as she spoke. On the other hand, Mu Yu was very rational. He pursed his lips and tilted his head to look at Liang Xiumin. He then turned to Yun Jian and said, "You really pissed them off just now. I agree that you should take them down a notch. How dare you say something like that in front of children? But can you really get New Cruise to donate 1 billion yuan to the children in the poor mountainous areas? Are you really the director of New Cruise?" Clearly, no matter how vivid Yun Jian's story was, no one would believe it without evidence. After all, this was too unreasonable. Hearing this, Liang Xiumin also turned to look at Yun Jian, only to see Yun Jian, who was standing in front of them, squinting slightly and saying, "Take a guess." The people who were born and raised in Wuzhen had never left the mountains. Even the female teacher, who had been teaching in Wuzhen for many years, had been isolated from the world for many years. Therefore, they had no idea what New Cruise was. The children didn't know how much 1 billion was either. The children here generally learned slower than the children in the city. Without the guidance of a master teacher, no matter how hard they worked, they couldn't compare to the children in the city. "Big sister, can I take you to herd the lambs after school? Big sister is so pretty, the lambs will definitely like you very much." The child, who had just been scolded by Wu Zhizhi in that tone, walked to Yun Jian shakily and said to Yun Jian. She was a very cute little girl, but because she hadn't bathed for a long time, she reeked of sweat and her face and hands were dirty. After being scolded by Wu Zhizhi, the little girl dared not touch Yun Jian's hand, afraid that Yun Jian would despise her too. "Then it's a deal. You'll take us to herd the lambs after school." Before Yun Jian could reply, Liang Xiumin responded to the cute little girl first. Liang Xiumin was stunned when she saw that everyone was looking at her. She then coughed twice and looked to the side. She said something that didn't match her heart. "I'm sorry. Ahem. I'm not the one who wants to herd the lambs with you. I saw that you wanted Yun Jian to go, so I agreed on Yun Jian's behalf. I'm just going to check it out along the way." This young lady's arrogance was unparalleled. When the children heard Liang Xiumin's words, they all giggled. What are you laughing at?" Liang Xiumin's face was stiff, but she didn't look fierce at all. "Big sister, you're much cuter than those sisters who left just now." A naughty little boy put his hands around his mouth and shouted loudly. The scene was peaceful. The little girl who had invited Yun Jian to herd the lambs was called Xingzi by everyone. This naughty little boy was called He Qifeng. The group of children immediately started playing with Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin's arrogant temper was completely worn out. At 3:30 in the afternoon, after the children had finished school, Yun Jian, the group of children, and Liang Xiumin were walking to a place where they grazed the lambs. In the end, one of the children forgot to bring home the textbook for homework. It was too slow for the child to go back and get it, and it was too dangerous for him to walk alone. Yun Jian let the group go to the hill where the lambs were grazed first, and she rushed back to school to get it. Just as she arrived at the child's classroom, she suddenly heard two strange voices. "Ah, it's here. We won't be discovered here, right? Gentler. Qingjiang, it's so comfortable." This was a woman's voice. "Everyone's gone. It's so exciting to do it in the classroom. Dambi *tch. Come out." This was a man's voice. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. TSK, she didn't need to look to know that the owners of these two voices were Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang. Chapter 2073. Shen Qingjiang used these vulgar words to shout at Wu Zhizhi, and even used his hand to smack Wu Zhizhi's but a few times. That strength, it did not seem like he was flirting, but more like he was hitting someone. But Yun Jian did not see any of this. When she heard the commotion, she walked into the other classroom where Shen Qingjiang and Wu Zhizhi were having an affair. She took the child's textbook from the classroom and left the school. Yun Jian did not have the hobby of stealing other people's affairs. Yun Jian quickly caught up with the group of children. The sun had set, and on the not-too-steep hill, the children were herding the sheep, letting Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin touch the newborn lambs. They were all so happy that they did not want to go home. "Sister, look, the lambs love you." Xingzi squatted in front of Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin, holding a lamb in her arms, and said with a smile. On that dirty face, there was the innocence of a child. The lamb was not an adult, but a newborn lamb that could already walk. It also had the appearance of an adult lamb, but it was small and cute. Bah! The lamb turned its head like a chicken pecking at rice to Yun Jian, and bleated. On this hill, there were people herding cows and sheep, and a large group of ducks and chickens running around chasing each other. Although it was noisy, Yun Jian felt a sense of tranquility. That was a sense of tranquility in the heart. "Sister, do you want to hold the lamb?" Xingzi asked as she looked at Yun Jian with her large black eyes, holding the lamb in her arms. Yun Jian nodded. Xingzi passed the lamb into Yun Jian's arms. The lamb was very obedient, and stayed in Yun Jian's arms without making a sound or moving. It was very obedient. "Sister, look, this lamb loves you so much." Xingzi shouted happily, as if she had discovered a new world. Evening passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the sky was about to turn dark. Everyone returned to Wuzhen the way they came, and then took a detour to go home. "Do you have any dreams?" Yun Jian suddenly asked. She still had a long way to go. She still had to deal with the mysterious man and the reverse emperor organization. He couldn't stop leading the kosher mercenaries forward, or there would be thousands of reverse emperors rising in the future. Then what about this group of innocent children? What were their dreams? Xingzi, He Qifeng, Lu Ying, and the other children were silent for a while. In the next second, the group of children spoke resolutely one after another. "Our dream is to leave the mountains." "That's right. The teacher said that as long as you study hard, you will be able to walk out of the mountain. I want to see the outside world." He wanted to see the outside world. After the last child finished speaking, everyone fell silent. It was such a small wish, but for these children, it was harder than ascending to the heavens. They did not have great ambitions. Their only wish was to walk out of the mountains and see the outside world. At this moment, Yun Jian didn't know what to say. Perhaps some people would say that she had the ability to let these children see the outside world. But Yun Jian wouldn't do that. The outside world was not as beautiful as the children imagined. The children would understand when they left the mountains with their own strength. If they couldn't leave the mountains with their own strength, it would be better for them to keep their innocent hearts forever. When they came down from the mountains, there was still a trace of afterglow in the sky. The dim orange afterglow reflected on the clouds. It was very beautiful. "Hey, that's..." As soon as they came down from the mountains, Mu Yu saw a girl sitting on the stairs. The girl was surrounded by a group of people, and she was talking about something. The girl was leaning on another girl's shoulder, and tears were flowing down her face. It's the girl who tried to jump off the cliff just now. Yun Jian walked past Mu Yu and Liang Xiumin and said, "You're right. She wouldn't jump off the cliff. How did you know?" Mu Yu was surprised for a moment. Yun Jian, who was walking in front of them, turned her head sideways, and said something that Mu Yu didn't understand. "Her eyes can tell me everything I want to know. Chapter 2074. Her words lagged behind for a long time. It turned out that Mu Xiao couldn't figure out the meaning of Yun Jian's words even after thinking for a long time. In the end, she couldn't figure it out and simply stopped thinking about it. Yun Jian didn't know whether the two old ruffians were dead or not. In the next 2 days, Yun Jian and the other college students began to teach the children officially. Before that, it was worth mentioning that the quilts that Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin bought for Lu Ying and Lu Shijia scared them. Since their mother left, there was no money left to change the quilts at home. Therefore, the quilts that Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin used to cover them were dirty and smelly. After Lu Ying and Lu Shijia came to their senses, they were so grateful to Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin that they shed tears. In the end, they were amused by Liang Xiumin, who didn't know how to speak, and laughed through their tears. "What are you crying for? A few quilts made you cry like this. I'll buy 100 quilts tomorrow and teach you how to cry." In the next 2 days, Yun Jian didn't teach anything. She just followed the children. This volunteer teaching activity in the countryside was organized by Jiangqing Normal University. To put it bluntly, Yun Jian and the others came to experience the atmosphere of the poor mountainous area. The college students of Normal University would be teachers in the future. Therefore, they came here to experience the feeling of being a teacher in advance. As for Yun Jian and the other students from other schools, they were considered as substitutes. After all, although Yun Jian and the others were not students of Normal University, they all had good grades. That was why they could come here. Of course, Liang Xiumin was not included. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. Yun Jian had just eaten an orange given by a child who said that it was grown at home. It was sweet and delicious. After eating the orange, her hands were sticky, so Yun Jian went out of the classroom to wash her hands. On the way back, she heard the principal of Wuzhen Primary School say to the only female teacher in Wuzhen Primary School. The 4, 6, and 6-year-old children were brought to the outdoor class by the college students? When the principal asked, the female teacher answered honestly, "Yes, principal." "Then you have to follow them and keep an eye on them. I heard that there are often cases of children being kidnapped in broad daylight in the nearby towns. Many children have gone missing. Hurry up and go outside to look after the children. Our Wu town has no law and order to begin with. Human traffickers always pick places like ours to attack. There are security guards in the big city. Hurry up and follow them outside," the principal instructed. But everything the principal said was for the sake of the children. "Yes, principal, I'll go right away." The female teacher hurriedly ran out. Yun Jian had just walked past the principal and the female teacher. There were 2 classes in Wuzhen. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders were in one class, while the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders were in another class. Lu Ying was in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Last time, the ones who brought Yun Jian, Liang Xiumin, and the others to herd the sheep on the mountain were the students in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Yun Jian had just passed by the principal and the female teachers when she was stopped by the elegant and beautiful Wu Zhizhi with a sneer on her face. "Today's the 3rd day. You said you wanted new crews to donate 1 billion RMB. It's almost evening now. Where are the people from new crews?" Wu Zhizhi was all smiles as if she could already see Yun Jian making a fool of herself. "Today's not over yet," Yun Jian replied. After that, she walked past Wu Zhizhi and headed inside. However, just as she was about to enter the classroom, a female teacher who had rushed back from afar cried out at the entrance. "Oh no! The children! The children have really been kidnapped. Principal! 5 of our children have been kidnapped into a black van. Hurry up and get the people in town to save them." Just as the female teacher found the children, she saw a group of masked people dragging the children into a black van. The female teacher tried to stop them but was punched. Ignoring the pain, she ran back and yelled for help. Just as she reached Yun Jian's side, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She grabbed the female teacher. What's going on? The children have been kidnapped by a group of people. What should we do? What should we do? The female teacher was so flustered that her face turned pale. She did not even notice that she was holding a card written in blood. Yun Jian took the card from the female teacher right in front of the smug Wu Zhizhi. There were 2 words written in fresh blood on the card. Reverse Emperor. Seeing that, Yun Jian's eyes darkened. She was as cold as ice in February. In front of Wu Zhizhi and the female teacher, she spoke calmly as usual. They've been kidnapped by the assassin organization. You won't be able to catch up to them. Chapter 2075. The name, Reverse Emperor, on the card was enough to prove that the kidnapper was from Reverse Emperor. As for the female teacher and the principal, even if they gathered everyone in Wu Town, they wouldn't be able to catch up to Reverse Emperor's black van. After all, Reverse Emperor was an assassin organization that was only second to the Kosha mercenaries and in Hun. They even dared to declare war against the Kosha mercenaries and in Hun. After Reverse Emperor went out on a mission, they would leave a card written in blood. At the bottom of the card, there would be a small line of words. That small line of words was the code name of the assassin or agent who went out on a mission. As expected, Yun Jian found a small line of words on the card. There were only 3 words on the card. African Leopard. The kidnapper is the 5th-ranked assassin in the International Assassin Ranking, African Leopard. Before the female teacher and Wu Zhizhi could react, Yun Jian raised her head to look at them. Yun Jian added, "You won't be able to catch up to them. Even if you do, you will be killed immediately." What Yun Jian was doubtful about was why Reverse Emperor would send such a character to a poor mountainous area like Wu Town to kidnap people. However, when she saw the words African Leopard on the card, all her doubts were cleared. "Their target is me," Yun Jian said as she walked towards the classroom. "Wait, what are you talking about? You were the chairman of New Crews before, and now you're talking about some assassin organization. Are you messing with us? Let me tell you, you can't be so selfish. Now that the children are kidnapped, you're still not letting the people in Wuzhen rescue them? You're doing this on purpose. Why are you so involved in this?" Seizing the chance to accuse Yun Jian, Wu Zhizhi rambled on incessantly. When she saw that Yun Jian was walking towards the classroom, she screamed even louder. She even tried to pounce on Yun Jian as if she was going to stop Yun Jian from leaving. When the female teacher heard Yun Jian's words, she was stunned, but she still ran to find him. Ever since the female teacher's terrified voice had been heard, the surrounding people had been drawn over. At this moment, the dozens of university students who came from the university town of Jiang City to teach in Wuzhen were all near Wuzhen Primary School. When they heard the commotion, they all ran over. "I think you're the one who wants to kill the child. Not allowed to save people? How can someone like you be the chairman of New Crews? What a joke," Wu Zhizhi said and was about to pounce on Yun Jian to stop her from leaving. However, Yun Jian dodged Wu Zhizhi's attempt to pounce on her from behind and walked into the classroom in a few steps. "Principal, let's call for help to save the children. If the children are taken away, it's my responsibility. Save the children. Save the child." The female teacher had already called the principal out. The 2 of them were about to rush out of Wuzhen Primary School. The female teacher was trembling violently and the principal was in shock as well. However, he could not give up. He still had to save the children. What's going on? Shen Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, Mu Yao, and the rest had no idea what was going on. However, the university students who heard the commotion could roughly guess what was going on. The children had been kidnapped. However, just as the principal and the female teacher were about to step out of the small Wuzhen Primary School, Yun Jian came out of the classroom with her backpack in one hand. When she was in the classroom earlier, she had used her fastest speed to hide all sorts of blades, knives, and daggers from her backpack in various places on her body. The African Leopard, ranked 5th on the International Assassin Ranking, was known for his speed. Yun Jian was strong and her biggest chance of winning was her speed. It was not that Yun Jian was not as fast as the African Leopard, but to go up against someone like the African Leopard who was not weak, she had to be fully equipped with all the secret weapons of a secret agent. Only then would she have a higher chance of winning. At this moment, Yun Jian had already hidden all sorts of killing weapons all over her body without leaving a trace. At this moment, Yun Jian was holding her backpack in her left hand. In front of all the university students, the principal, and the female teacher who saw her come out of the classroom, her right hand took out the latest Xueqi 2106 Swiss silver pistol from her backpack. After that, she threw her backpack on the ground and put the latest model Xueqi 2106 silver handgun into the holster at her waist without even looking at it. Her other hand held the last 2 butterfly knives tightly at the base of her thighs and pulled down her shirt. After she pulled down her shirt, in the eyes of outsiders, it was as if Yun Jian did not hide any weapons on her body. No one could see any traces of weapons on her body. At this moment, Yun Jian was carrying out a series of actions of a secret agent equipping weapons as she walked towards the principal and the female teacher. The speed of equipping weapons was many times faster and more accurate than the secret agents in the movies. Coupled with her indifferent expression, everyone present was stunned on the spot. For a moment just now, they seemed to have seen the king of hell who had survived among the corpses. However, before everyone present could react to Yun Jian's actions, they heard Yun Jian's indifferent words, which were like the master of the secret agent world, resounding through the classroom. In the next second, everyone present was dumbfounded and terrified. I said, that group of people's target is me. If you go, you will be courting death. The world of assassins and secret agents does not need you irrelevant people to participate. I will definitely bring him back. How dare you openly provoke me and kidnap someone under my nose? Even if he is the 5th on the international assassin ranking, he is now a member of the Grim Reaper's list. Chapter 2076. Yun Jian's words were like the melodious chirping of a lark. Her words were clear and entered everyone's ears without missing a single word. Everyone present was shocked and terrified. African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart. Who was that? Mu Yao frowned and stared at Yun Jian with Liang Xiaomin. Her eyes widened as she asked, "What exactly happened? What exactly happened? Why did it involve assassins and secret agents? Who was this African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart? Hurry up! Principal, hurry up and call for help. Those 5 kids are sitting in an unfamiliar van. They must be scared out of their wits." The female teacher's face was really pale and she couldn't care about anything else. At the same time, Shen Qingjiang, Wu Zhizhi, Kai Xinyuan, and all the boys and girls who came from the University of Rivertown were shocked by Yun Jian's actions just now. Some of them even realized that Yun Jian's actions were extremely cool. God! Did you see that? That girl has a gun. Who is she? She's too cool. That gun is a Xueqi 2106 Swiss pistol. I've only seen it on the newspaper. I didn't expect to see a real gun. This came from a boy who was shocked and admired Yun Jian's actions just now. I just watched a movie last week about female secret agents. It was exactly the same as what she did just now. So cool. If she was a boy, I would definitely fall in love with her every second. This came from a girl who was infatuated and shocked by Yun Jian's actions just now. The crowd was in an uproar. At this moment, Yun Jian had already arrived in front of the principal. She didn't look at the principal and walked out of the school gate in front of everyone. She shouted at the stunned principal, "You don't have a car here. Take me there." Yun Jian couldn't chase after the black van on foot. She couldn't fly, so it was naturally impossible. Hence, she had to find a car to chase after it. We don't have cars or vans in Wuzhen. We only have tractors. I'll borrow a tractor. The principal was having a headache. People in Wuzhen couldn't even afford a motorcycle, let alone a car. How could someone from a poor mountainous area own a car? This was also the reason why the human traffickers were able to capture them so easily. As long as they dragged the kidnapped children into the car, even if they were discovered, the villagers who didn't have cars wouldn't be able to chase after them. No need. Yun Jian refused. It was impossible for the tractor to chase after the black van. So, when are you going to stop showing off? You clearly know that there are no cars or vans in Wuzhen. You're just afraid that you'll lose face if you chase after someone on a tractor, right? Who are you pretending to be the savior of the world for? Even though Wu Zhizhi saw the scene just now, she quickly reacted at this moment and continued to speak rudely to Yun Jian. Wu Zhizhi was probably the kind of person who wouldn't shed a tear until she saw the coffin. Yun Jian did not say anything. After 3 seconds of silence, a cool sports car drifted over from afar. Yun Jian had heard the sound of the sports car drifting when she said, "No need." Not long after the sports car drifted over from afar, several luxurious cars behind it sped over from the direction of Wuzhen toward the city. They were from New Cruise, and the one leading the drifting sports car was Qing Yu. "Open the top and chase after someone," Yun Jian ordered softly, ignoring Wu Zhizhi and the rest. Qing Yu, who was sitting in the sports car, immediately opened the hood of her sports car, the sunroof of the sports car, and made a 360-degree turn in the open space at a frightening speed. This scene caused an uproar among the crowd. What shocked them even more was the moment the sports car opened its top and made a 360-degree turn at a shocking speed. However, he only saw a small and nimble figure running over there like a swallow. The owner of the small silhouette sprinted over 10 meters on the ground and leaped right into the sports car's seat the moment the sports car made a 360-degree turn. Just as the sports car made a turn, Yun Jian, who was in front of the crowd, was already in the car. The car stepped on the accelerator at a shocking speed and left the place immediately. Silence. Dead silence. It wasn't until 30 seconds later that someone said in a tone of disbelief and shock, "Oh my God!" She jumped into the sports car when it made a 360-degree turn. If she missed, she'd be killed. Is that girl really a secret agent or an assassin? I've never seen such a terrifying woman in my life. She's even a university student. She's F***ing amazing. A. Chapter 2077. Yun Jian, who had hopped into Qing Yu's sports car, sat in the passenger seat and was taken away from the place amidst the crowd's exclamations of shock, surprise, and fear. The scene just now caused everyone present to be unable to regain their senses for a long time. One had to know how terrifying it was. If Qing Yu had missed, if Yun Jian had jumped in the wrong direction, or if Yun Jian had accidentally fallen to the ground, the sports car would have turned around and run over her directly. Would she still be alive then? However, from what they could see now, the series of thoughts were unrealistic. It was because Yun Jian and Qing Yu's coordination just now could only be described as flawless. It was as if they had cooperated with each other thousands of times in that thrilling and terrifying move earlier. To them, it was a piece of cake. It was a tacit understanding that outsiders could not obtain even if they wanted it. Those who stood where they were, be it the principal or the female teachers, had forgotten that they had to call for help to save the child. The moment they saw Yun Jian getting into Qing Yu's sports car and speeding away, the crowd had an illusion for a moment. It was as long as Yun Jian was here, no matter how difficult it was, it would not be a problem. She. Wu Zhizhi, who was shocked by the series of events, could not react for a long time. What was going on? Why was Yun Jian so skilled? She was like a special forces soldier from the army. She was so cool. The people around them were exclaiming, so cool, oh my God, and so on to describe the shocking scene earlier. Wu Zhizhi's face turned paler when she heard that. Although I don't know what happened, do you guys want to check it out together? A middle-aged man in a suit and a pair of branded leather shoes alighted from a luxurious sedan. He was dressed like a big shot. This man was the current CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Zhifan. Zhang Zhifan had changed his appearance. He was wearing a branded suit and branded leather shoes. Even the way he walked gave off the vibe of a successful middle-aged man. However, this didn't mean that Zhang Zhifan was being extravagant and acting like a big shot. Zhang Zhifan was New Cruise's living signboard. He was different from Yun Jian, who was a hands-off boss. Since he wanted to run New Cruise on an international track, there was no way he was going to wear street goods to interact with international multinational companies. It would be strange if that person was willing to pay attention to him. Sometimes, wearing gold and silver from head to toe was a job requirement. Zhang Zhifan was a living example. I'll have to trouble you then. The principal hurriedly nodded. Everyone was eager to know what had happened and whether the children were all right. Therefore, after listening to Zhang Zhifan, they all got into the luxurious sports cars that Zhang Zhifan had brought. Even Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang were no exception. Perhaps it was because Zhang Zhifan had rarely shown his face on television. No one recognized Zhang Zhifan when they got out of the car and went after Yun Jian and Qing Yu in the luxurious cars. On the rugged mountain path, a black van was driving at the front. There were fields all around without any weeds or trees. Therefore, One could see clearly that a convertible sports car was chasing after the black van and was closing in on them. As the black van and convertible sports car passed by, the luxurious cars that could be seen from afar but could still be seen driving into the curve. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, and Mu Yu followed them. Far away, Yun Jian, who was in the convertible sports car, growled at Qing Yu, "Take the small path and flank it." Hearing that, Qing Yu took the small path and went over a steep slope right in front of the people in the luxurious cars to close the distance between them and the black van. At the same time, Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away saw something that shocked them. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the convertible sports car, pulled out a pistol from her waist and raised it single-handedly without looking, shooting the 4 tires of the black van in front of them from different angles. After 4 shots, the tires of the black van burst and it was forced to stop. Yun Jian did a flip and leaped onto the ground without waiting for the convertible sports car to stop. Her hand that held the pistol lowered naturally as she approached the black van fearlessly. It was like the arrival of the Grim Reaper. Chapter 2078. It was as if Yun Jian had done the breathtaking action thousands of times without a hitch. The people who followed her from afar had an illusion for a moment. It was as if she was meant to live in a world filled with bloodshed. However, for some reason, she had come to the ordinary world they lived in. Just as they were thinking about it, a few limousines stopped a few dozen meters away from the black van and convertible sports car that were parked closely together. "Don't come over. I'll go take a look." The principal got out of the car and walked towards Yun Jian. He was worried that something would happen to the children. However, if there was any danger, he would bear it alone. "Principal, let me go." The female teacher held the principal back and gulped. Although she was afraid, she still wanted to walk over. "You guys stay here. I'll go." Zhang Zhifan stopped her. As he spoke, he took off his blazer and tossed it to one of his men in the limousine. The man quickly caught the blazer that Zhang Zhifan tossed to him. At the same time, Zhang Zhifan was already walking towards the black van. Zhang Zhifan had not only developed new crews well in the past few years, but he had also been improving his own abilities. Although he might not be able to defeat a high-level assassin, at least he would not cause trouble for Yun Jian and could even help Yun Jian. At the same time, Yun Jian had already walked to about 10 meters away from the black van in front of everyone. She stopped and glanced at the black van from the corner of her eyes. "African leopard, I know you're in the van. Why don't you come out? Are all the assassins in Reverse Emperor like you? Cowardly. You're the 5th-ranked assassin in the International Assassin Chart. Is that all you've got?" Yun Jian stared at the black van. Unknowingly, she had already put the gun back into the holster on her waist and squinted her eyes. The windows of the black van were covered with a layer of film, so the people inside could not be seen from the outside. Bam! Sure enough, as soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, the car door was opened, and a 2-meter-tall burly middle-aged man got out of the car. After the burly middle-aged man got out of the car, he looked at Yun Jian. His right hand behind his back was dragging a big hammer. He held the big hammer and dragged it to the ground as he walked towards Yun Jian. This burly middle-aged man was African Leopard, ranked 5th on the International Assassin rankings. Although he was 2 meters tall and was a heavyweight, the speed of the African leopard was like that of a real cheetah, fast and agile. He was strong and fast. Even if it was the assassin or secret agent ranking, the assassins or secret agents who were ranked above the African leopard would have to be 100% vigilant against him, because the slightest carelessness could lead to instant death. "Little girl." The African leopard glanced at Yun Jian. Obviously, he did not recognize Yun Jian's identity, although he despised Yun Jian for being a little girl in his heart. However, it could be seen from the way Yun Jian stopped their black van just now. This little girl was not weak at all. F***CK. Kill her. The African leopard's eyes darkened as he ordered the men who came out of the van. Hearing that, the men took out their weapons. Wu Zhizhi and the rest who saw this scene were pale with fright. At the same time, Yun Jian stared at the men. The next sentence that came out of her mouth shocked Wu Zhizhi and the rest of the men. Even African Leopard and the men who were standing beside him were shocked. The 8th on the International Assassin rankings, Slaying Dragon. The 15th on the International Assassin rankings, Xing Tian. The 29th on the International Assassin rankings, Long E. the international 3S wanted criminal, retired sharpshooter from Country X, Flying Lion. Heh, the Reverse Emperor organization is really willing to pay any price to get rid of me. But it's a pity that you elites will die here. A. Chapter 2079. Something unacceptable was happening on the road from Bianwu town to the city. At the same time in Yiling's house. Lin Wei really treated Yiling's house as his own. After a year, Lin Wei moved into Yiling's house openly. Other than returning to an Hun organization to deal with internal affairs, Lin Wei went to Yiling's house to eat and drink. He even asked to sleep with Yiling's mother, Ji Qin, and father Yi Datong, didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei. Ji Qin and Yi Datong heard from Yiling that Lin Wei was the second in command of a gang and was very powerful. Ji Qin and Yi Datong didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei because they were afraid that Lin Wei would take their daughter away again. Their daughter had been missing for more than 10 years. To Ji Qin and Yi Datong, it was fine as long as Yiling was fine. Therefore, Lin Wei also openly slept in the same room as Yiling in front of her parents. In fact, Ji Qin already thought that Lin Wei had taken advantage of her daughter. Now that Lin Wei wasn't in Yiling's house, Ji Qin called Yiling to her room. "Mom, why did you call me here?" Yiling didn't know why Ji Qin called her here. "Lingling, did you do that with him?" Ji Qin was too embarrassed to ask at first. "What do you mean?" Yiling frowned slightly. Her sky blue eyes were very beautiful. "That. Did he wear a condom when you did it?" Ji Qin was experienced too. She didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Yiling didn't know what Ji Qin was talking about before. Now that she heard Ji Qin's words, she understood. "Mom, wait." Yiling's face turned red instantly. Okay. Mom knows. Lingling, it's been hard on you this year. Mom and Dad are useless. If we were more capable, we wouldn't let you suffer like this. Lingling, I'm sorry for doing this with someone I don't like. Ji Qin said and tears fell down. She felt sorry for her daughter. Her daughter was already back home, but she couldn't stop Lin Wei from doing that to Yiling. She didn't dare to say anything. After all, Lin Wei was a gang member. "Mom, there was no such thing." Yiling shook her head. "No, Lingling, listen to Mom. Mom and Dad have discussed it. We'll definitely help you escape from that man. That man won't come today. Hurry up and run. Mom and Dad are here. Even if that man kills you, Mom and Dad won't let you sell your body again." As Ji Qin spoke, she took out a bank card from her room and handed it to Yiling with trembling hands. "Lingling, this is all our savings. Take it and run. Run as far as you can." Yiling shook her head when she realized that her mother had misunderstood her. She wanted to stuff the bank card back into Ji Qin's hands. "Mom, no, Take it. Let's go now." Ji Qin seemed to have made up her mind. Without giving Yiling a chance to speak, she shoved the bank card into Yiling's hand and pushed her out. Who would have thought that as soon as he opened the door, he would see Lin Wei standing indifferently at the door? Ji Qin was shocked. Yiling's heart skipped a beat. "Where are you going?" Just as Yiling's heart skipped a beat, Lin Wei's pleasant and magnetic voice rang out. There was a trace of coldness in his voice that had never been there before. He was angry. Yiling's heart unconsciously panicked. "No, I'm not leaving." Yiling wanted to explain, but Lin Wei grabbed her wrist and dragged her to her room in front of Ji Qin. He locked the door. After entering the room, Lin Wei threw Yiling onto the bed and began to undress. "Did I give you too much time to accept me? So you want to run away? They say that women know their place when they're pregnant. Then I won't be polite." As he spoke, Lin Wei unbuckled his belt and unzipped her underwear. Chapter 2080. Ouch. 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 Yiling was still in a daze when Lin Wei completely penetrated her. How did this happen? Wasn't everything fine just now? She thought it was just her mother, Ji Qin, who wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with her. How did it turn out like this? Yiling couldn't describe how she felt. If she didn't want to accept Lin Wei, she would have started to struggle. But Yiling didn't struggle. So when her underwear was pulled open, Yiling was completely turned into Lin Wei's woman before she could react. Maybe she already liked him. After Lin Wei violently penetrated her, Yiling reached out her hands and wrapped them around Lin Wei's neck. She buried her head in his shoulders. Her legs wrapped around his waist. "Softer," she said softly like a kitten. Even her earlobes were flushed. Didn't she want to escape? Escape from his world. So Lin Wei crudely penetrated her. But now she didn't make a fuss. Instead, she cooperated with him. What was going on? Desire overshadowed his rational mind. Lin Wei, who had tasted something new for the first time in over 20 years, didn't hesitate anymore and continued to move. Ji Qin, who was outside the room, heard that her precious daughter was being forced again. She hid in her room and cried. Ji Qin would never have thought that she was the cause of all this. At the same time, on the rugged mountain path from Wuzhen to the city, Yun Jian's words carried a certain aura and entered everyone's ears. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance all widened their eyes when they heard Yun Jian's words. The first four were all international assassins. And one was a retired sharpshooter from Country X. Are these all international bigwigs? Why would such terrifying people appear here? Mu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened when he heard this and asked. Mu Xiaoxiao obviously knew about these things. After hearing this, his face changed drastically. What international bigwigs? Just because she said so, it's just because she said so? Wu Zhizhi saw that the people in front of her, led by African Leopard, had taken out unusual weapons. She didn't want to admit the truth. She stuttered and shouted again. But before Wu Zhizhi could finish her sentence, everyone saw that African Leopard and the other four were also shocked after hearing Yun Jian's words. An ordinary little girl naturally wouldn't be able to recognize them at a glance. Moreover, Yun Jian had only glanced at them once, and she had already exposed their backgrounds. Who was she? How do you know our identities so well? The African Leopard glared at Yun Jian and asked. African Leopard's words directly confirmed their identities. Wu Zhizhi's words just now made her look like a clown, and her face turned even uglier. There's nothing that I don't know about internationally. In front of them, Yun Jian didn't hide her smile. Who are you? At this moment, the African Leopard had no choice but to pay attention to Yun Jian. He had to pay attention to this little girl who they did not pay attention to in the beginning. Big brother, don't waste time on this little girl. Let's quickly bring them back to the organization and report to the boss. No matter who she is, even if she's one of the top 3 figures in the international assassin ranking, she won't be able to escape if the 5 of us work together. Long Yi, who was ranked 29th in the international assassin ranking, stood beside African Leopard and said to him while wiping his nose. 5 top international assassins against 1 Yun Jian. As long as she wasn't the international legend that made people tremble in fear, she was definitely no match for them. Is that so? Hearing Long Yi's words, Yun Jian's red arc grew deeper in front of Wu Zhizhi and the others. 5 against 1, is it? Do you know anything about the Blood Night incident? Yun Jian continued. Blood Night incident. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the 5 people led by African Leopard were stunned. Of course they knew. Who in the underworld didn't know about the Blood Night incident? The Blood Night incident was the reason why Slaying God, who was ranked first in the international secret agent ranking, became famous. Back then, Slaying God's rise had shocked the world. The top 10 assassins in the international assassin ranking, including the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent ranking, had joined forces to besiege and kill Slaying God. However, in the end, the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin world were massacred by Slaying God with her bare hands on that night. She went up against the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin circle alone. Slaying God won. That was the Blood Night incident. The Blood Night incident back then had shocked the world. Since the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent and assassin ranking were all dead, it was only natural that other secret agents and assassins would replace them. However, anyone in the circle would see Slaying God as someone they would rather commit suicide than provoke. The Blood Night incident back then was a result of Slaying God taking on more than one person. Now that this little girl mentioned it, what was the meaning behind it? African Leopard and the other 4 panicked for no reason. However, they did not have time to think further. Yun Jian had already smoothed out the red arc on her forehead in front of everyone. Her indifferent side profile was facing African Leopard and the other four. Her cold voice was like a reenactment of the Blood Night incident, spreading to everyone's hearts and stirring up a wave of fear. It's been 3 years. Since the Blood Night incident, this is the first time the top assassins have joined forces to attack me again. So, are you ready to die? A. Chapter 2081. During the Bloody Night incident, the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin and Secret Agent Leaderboard had joined forces to go against Slaying God, who was not ranked first on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. It was because Slaying God was too powerful and would pose a threat to them sooner or later. African Leopard and the rest were well aware of that. The 5 of them combined could not be compared to the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin Leaderboard. However, what did Yun Jian mean by that? It's been 3 years. Since the Bloody Night incident, this is the first time the assassins on the leaderboard have joined forces to attack me again? Did Yun Jian mean that there were assassins on the leaderboard who had joined forces to attack her before? Furthermore, Yun Jian had mentioned the Bloody Night incident. Based on this comparison, could she be the one who had fought the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard during the Bloody Night incident? She rose to fame in one battle, causing an uproar in the international circle. Countless business tycoons were terrified when they heard her name. The top assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, Slaying God. Are you Faye? Are you S from the Bloody Night incident? Before he could finish the word kill, a voice rang out. You can die now. Everyone heard a flat voice that they could not tell if it was happy or sad. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the rest could only see the flash of a knife from afar. They could not even see when Yun Jian had attacked. Long Yi, who had wanted to reveal Yun Jian's identity in his panic, had his throat slit by Yun Jian's flying knife. Long Yi was the 29th assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. He was also the weakest among the 5. Frightened by Yun Jian's skills, the remaining 4, including African Leopard, did not dare to reveal the codename that sent chills down their spines just thinking about it. Long Yi's death did not shock African Leopard and the rest. In their world, the death of a person was a common occurrence. Even if someone who had been with them had died in front of them, African Leopard and the rest would not be too shocked. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, was so shocked that she covered her mouth and screamed, dead. Someone's dead. Yun Jian killed someone. Wu Zhizhi's shouting and wrangling immediately attracted the attention of African Leopard and the others. Seeing this, Shen Qingjiang, who had a close relationship with Wu Zhizhi, slapped Wu Zhizhi in front of everyone. Are you trying to get us killed? When Wu Zhizhi saw that her beloved Shen Qingjiang had slapped her in front of everyone, she covered her cheek with her hand and wanted to cry. It's just a clown. Now it's time to settle our score, Yun Jian sneered when she saw African Leopard and the others looking at Wu Zhizhi. It was not to save Wu Zhizhi. Yun Jian had always been clear about kindness and hatred. Even if African Leopard and the others killed Wu Zhizhi in public, it had nothing to do with her. She just didn't want to waste time. What debt? After African Leopard and the others guessed Yun Jian's identity, they were so scared that their faces darkened. At this moment, the tone of his voice was trembling with fear. Reverse Emperor, why did they send you here? Yun Jian asked. There was no answer to his question. You're not going to tell me, are you? Yun Jian took out 2 butterfly knives from both sides of her thighs and twirled them in her palms as she walked toward African Leopard and the others. With the butterfly knives, African Leopard and the others were even more certain of Yun Jian's identity. At this moment, the 4 of them were so scared that their expressions changed drastically. Let the children go first. Just when African Leopard and the others were about to fight to the death, Yun Jian suddenly put away the butterfly knives and said with her arms crossed. In the face of Slaying God, even if they had hostages, they would not be able to survive. African Leopard and the others knew that very well. They won't take the children as hostages, right? The female teacher from afar asked fearfully. The crowd was nervous as well. However, before they could get nervous, African Leopard and the others had already obediently released the 5 kidnapped children. They released the children so quickly that it was as if they were afraid that they would be killed by Yun Jian, who was scarier than a river beast if they were too late. Seeing that, Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, the principal, the female teacher, Liang Xiumin, Mu Yu, and the rest were bewildered. Who was this Yun Jian? Why did African Leopard and the others, who were so intimidating earlier, act like obedient dogs now? They would do whatever Yun Jian told them to do? Chapter 2082. The kidnapped children were obviously frightened. Zhang Zhifan walked over to take the children back one by one and handed them to the female teacher and the principal. The female teacher rubbed the children's heads. She was obviously scared out of her wits. However, the female teacher was a smart person. She knew that such a scene was not suitable for the children to continue staying. She was afraid that the children would be psychologically distorted after seeing the bloody scene. Therefore, the female teacher touched a child's head and quickly turned to look at Zhang Zhifan. She said, "Can you please send someone to send the 5 children back to our town first?" Okay. Zhang Zhifan immediately understood when he heard this. He immediately nodded and responded. Then, he turned around and said to one of his men who was driving the limousine, "Xiao Yuan, send these children back to the town we just went to, and then come back to pick us up." The driver, who Zhang Zhifan called Xiao Yuan, nodded after hearing this. After watching the 5 children get into the car and drive away, the female teacher breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what happened next, now that the children had left, it was easy to say, "We let them go. You should let us go too." African Leopard, who was not far away, continued to speak to Yun Jian after the 5 children left. Let them go? Just now, the 5 children were in the hands of African Leopard and his group. According to the bad guy's setting, shouldn't he take the 5 children as hostages to threaten Yun Jian and everyone present? Moreover, the people led by African Leopard were killers on the international killer list. All of them had high statuses. But why didn't they take the 5 children as hostages? Instead, they listened to Yun Jian and let them go obediently. That was fine. But one of the 5 was dead. For men actually begged Yun Jian to let them go? Wu Zhizhi, Kai Xinyuan, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance were already in an uproar. Yun Jian was the same as them. They were all ordinary college students. Not to mention that Yun Jian was facing a few top killers from the world this time. Even if they encountered ordinary kidnappers, they would be so scared that they would squat on the ground with their heads in their hands and pee their pants in terror. Why did it turn upside down in Yun Jian's hands? It was actually these top assassins from the world. Beg Yun Jian to forgive them? What did she mean by the bloody night incident? At this moment, Mu Yu, who was good at thinking about the details, muttered to herself. I've never heard of it. Liang Xiumin heard Mu Yao's muttering and took the opportunity to reply. How could anyone present know about the bloody night incident? However, if they were to ask their father, who was a businessman, they would probably be able to find out what exactly the famous bloody night incident was. At that moment, Yun Jian didn't give the surrounding people a chance to continue talking. She turned her body around to face African Leopard and the other 3. Her cold and indifferent face made African Leopard and the other 3 slightly flustered. Let you go? If you don't tell me why Reverse Emperor sent you here today, do you think you can leave this place alive? Yun Jian glanced at the 4 men as if she was looking at 4 corpses. There was a strange luster in his eyes, as if he was a king who ruled over life and death. African Leopard and the other 3 men shuddered. Looks like you guys are planning to keep your mouths shut. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. As she spoke, a half-smile appeared on her face and she extended a hand to Qing Yu. You, take out your newly developed poison. There are ready-made white mice here for you to test the efficacy of your newly developed poison for free. Yes. Qing Yu took out the poison in front of everyone after listening to Yun Jian. It was a small bottle of liquid solvent. However, when African Leopard and the other 3 heard how Yun Jian addressed Qing Yu, their eyes widened in front of Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away. In the next second, the 4 men, led by African Leopard, took a few more glances at Qing Yu and exclaimed in fear. Are you the world's top poison expert, Lady Poison? A. Chapter 2083. If slaying God, the #1 on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, was a character that struck fear in African Leopard and the rest. However, African Leopard and the rest had never thought that they would meet someone like Slaying God. After all, Slaying God's mystery was no secret in the circle. Qing Yu, the wicked lady who followed slaying God, was closer to the truth than slaying God. Unlike slaying God, no one knew who she really looked like. Not only was Qing Yu Yunjian's subordinate, but slaying God would always get Qing Yu to do whatever she wanted. Hence, when people heard Qing Yu's name internationally, it was as if they had seen slaying God in person, causing them to break out in cold sweat. Moreover, Qing Yu was the world's #1 poison expert. Even if you walked a dozen meters away from her, she would still be able to poison you silently. Even if you died on the spot, no one would be able to find out the cause of death. Therefore, other than slaying God, Qing Yu, the wicked lady, was the last person the assassins on the leaderboard wanted to meet. Now, the two terrifying characters that the international assassins and secret agents did not want to meet the most were right in front of them. African Leopard and the other three's expressions could not be described with just one word. It was the fear of impending death. Slaying God alone was enough to kill them. Now, there was the world's #1 poison expert. Will you let us go if we tell you? African Leopard asked Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. Big brother, if we tell you, I'm afraid we won't be able to return to Reverse Emperor. Annihilation Dragon, the #8 assassin on the leaderboard, said to African Leopard after hearing what Yun Jian said. It's still better than dying. Reverse Emperor wasn't our home to begin with. Boss only hired us to join Reverse Emperor 2 years ago. Moreover, Boss has assigned us to carry out all kinds of dangerous missions for the past 2 years. Boss must have known that we'd meet them today. Since Boss isn't giving us a way out, why should we stay with Reverse Emperor? Where there's life, there's hope. Reverse Emperor was unkind to us, so why should we be kind to them? African Leopard said, clenching his fists. After that, the African Leopard seemed to have made up his mind to confess to Yun Jian. Let's talk over there. Yun Jian waved her hand and walked towards the track in the distance. When African Leopard and the other three saw this, they also followed. Yun Jian didn't stop until she was sure that Wu Zhizhi and the others couldn't hear her. You can speak now. Hearing this, African Leopard did not play any tricks. He spoke bluntly and told him everything he knew. Chi. It wasn't until African Leopard and the other three left with Long Yi's corpse in the black van that Wu Zhizhi and the others recovered from their daze. After he left, Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and Kai Xinyuan finally dared to walk over from afar. Liang Xiumin and Mu Xiao also followed. How dare you kill someone just now? Wu Zhizhi shouted at Yun Jian as soon as she walked over. This irrational behavior was very consistent with her identity as a rich family's young miss. Mu Xiao, on the other hand, wisely chose to hold Liang Xiumin without saying anything or asking anything. The principal, the female teacher, and those who came with them wisely chose to ignore the series of events that happened just now. Yun Jian ignored Wu Zhizhi while Qing Yu looked at the black van. It was only when it disappeared from everyone's sight that Qing Yu asked Yun Jian, Sister Jian, do you need me to go after them and kill them? Kill them after letting them go? Wu Zhizhi was about to say that Yun Jian was ignoring her when she heard Qing Yu's question and shut her mouth in fright. Yun Jian, who stood beside the group, narrowed her eyes. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was going to keep quiet, her nonchalant voice rang with unprecedented confidence and ambition. There's no need for that. It won't be long before Reverse Emperor, including them, becomes my subordinates. A. Chapter 2084. Yun Jian had always been a woman of her words. Qing Yu knew this very well. Qing Yu nodded. Didn't you say that Reverse Emperor is an assassin organization? You want to take over the assassin organization and their assassins? Yun Jian, what do you do for a living? Wu Zhizhi was so dumb that she could not keep her words to herself. Liang Xiumin and Wu Zhizhi were both young ladies, but Liang Xiumin was smarter than Wu Zhizhi and knew what to ask and what not to ask. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, never knew what to ask and what not to ask. Or maybe it was curiosity that took over, causing Wu Zhizhi to ask directly whenever she wanted to know the answer. By then, Yun Jian had already turned and made her way to Qing Yu's convertible sports car. Just as she was about to walk toward Qing Yu's convertible sports car, she heard Wu Zhizhi's dumb question. Yun Jian's lips curled upward when she heard that. Do you know why I killed that person just now? However, what Yun Jian said surprised everyone present. Wu Zhizhi still did not understand after some thought, but she was a little afraid of Yun Jian's gaze. Therefore, the words that came out of Wu Ziji's mouth were laced with coldness. Why? Because he's as talkative as you are. Yun Jian suddenly reached out and slashed Wu Ziji's neck. Before the crowd could react, they saw the gleam of a knife in Yun Jian's hand. Wu Ziji was stunned as well. When she came back to her senses, the gleam of the knife had already slashed her neck. Ah, no. I don't want to die. There was a swoosh. When the crowd reacted, they saw Yun Jian cutting off a large chunk of Wu Ziji's hair that fell over her shoulders with the butterfly knife. That sound was the soft and crisp sound of a strand of hair being cut. Wu Ziji breathed out in relief. She was scared out of her wits. By the time Wu Ziji came back to her senses, Yun Jian had already walked to the convertible sports car. The moment before she sat in the convertible sports car, she turned around and looked at Wu Ziji with a red smile. I don't think anyone has ever told you that nosy people like you die the quickest. Without waiting for Wu Ziji's response, Yun Jian held the car door with one hand and jumped into the driver's seat through the sunroof of the convertible sports car. Qing Yu hopped into the passenger seat of the convertible sports car as well. In Yun Jian's hands, the convertible sports car drew a straight line and disappeared in the blink of an eye like a shooting star. Yiling's house. Yiling's boudoir was filled with the scent of a man and a woman after making love. Yiling was tormented by Lin Wei and took a nap. Now that she woke up, she suddenly realized that she had been tortured by him. Ah! Yiling almost jumped up from the bed and then turned over. At this moment, she was naked and fell directly to the ground. The numbness in her thighs made Yiling prop herself up, but she could not stand properly. However, just as Yiling accidentally fell to the ground, a large hand reached out from the bed to grab her hand and pulled her back onto the bed. Trying to escape? Lin Wei's cold voice rang. It was still the same simple and crude word. Having known Lin Wei for so long, Yiling could tell that he would not say much to her when he was angry. Actually, Lin Wei was used to being a man of few words. He was like that to everyone except for her. However, once Lin Wei was angry, he would speak to her in the same tone he spoke to everyone else. I didn't. Yiling's eyes darted around as she tried to explain. Lin Wei did not listen to Yiling as he lay on top of her. Open the door. Open the door. Don't blame Ling Ling, it's my fault. It's all my fault. Please let my daughter go. Come at me if you want to kill me, don't hurt Ling Ling. Outside the door, Yiling's mother, Ji Qinqin's voice of despair came. Just as Ji Qinqin finished her words, her daughter's moan of being violated echoed in the house. Ah no, don't do this. Lin Wei penetrated Yiling again with only a door between them right in front of her mother. Chapter 2085. After that, Yiling was tormented by Lin Wei until she couldn't get out of bed. Ji Qinqin kept knocking on the door outside and had to give up in the end. Actually, Yiling's room was equipped with a spare key, but Ji Qinqin didn't dare to open the door. She was afraid to see the despair in her precious daughter's eyes. After Lin Wei finished eating Yiling, he put on his clothes and left the place. But before he left, Lin Wei helped Yiling change into a clean set of clothes. Where are you going? Yiling sat up straight and asked when she saw that Lin Wei was about to leave. I'll pick you up in 3 days. Lin Wei didn't say anything else. He left this sentence and walked out of the door. After opening the door, Lin Wei didn't even look at Ji Qinqin. His tall figure walked out of the Yi family's door in a few steps. After Lin Wei left, Ji Qinqin rushed into the house like a kite with a broken string to see her daughter. Lingling, I'll take you away. I'll take you away. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. We'll still live without a man. Ji Qinqin thought that Yiling was frightened. She thought that Yiling couldn't accept it, so she rushed over to hug Yiling and take her away. A girl who had lost her virginity would be criticized even if she remarried. Ji Qinqin didn't want her daughter to suffer that. She had lost her daughter for 10 years. She must give her the best in the future. However, before Ji Qinqin could hug Yiling, she thought that Yiling would be in so much pain from being violated by Lin Wei again. Who knew that she would see Yiling's shy and embarrassed face? Mom, I think I like him. Yiling looked up. Her sky-blue eyes were sparkling. They were exquisite and beautiful, like a doll that had been carefully dressed up. They were so beautiful that it was unrealistic. Ji Qinqin was stunned. Huh. Then, wasn't everything she did before just messing around? Ji Qin was the kind of person who would support her daughter unconditionally as long as she liked it. Ji Qin's heart instantly relaxed when she heard that her daughter liked Lin Wei. To be honest, she quite liked Lin Wei, except for the fact that he was domineering. But if her daughter liked him, Lin Wei's domineering attitude would be good. That kind of man was the most loyal. H Province, W City, Wu Town. The 5 children had already been brought back safely. Yun Jian drove the convertible sports car back to Wuzhen first. After that, Zhang Zhifan brought the people who had chased after the black van back to Wuzhen. The group of people got out of the car. They were still in a daze from what had just happened. Sister, we've all heard that you're the one who saved 5 of our classmates and even chased away the bad guys. Thank you. At this time, Xing Zi led the 4th, 6th, and 6th grade students to Yun Jian. They tied up the bouquet that they had hurriedly gathered together and handed it to Yun Jian. The children blinked their innocent eyes, waiting to see Yun Jian receive the bouquet. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Then, she accepted the bouquet of flowers from the children in front of everyone. It's beautiful. Just because Yun Jian said the words very beautiful, the children laughed happily. Although the smile looked silly, it contained the most innocent smile of a child. Wu Zhizhi dared not speak due to Yun Jian's behavior just now. In spite of it, her eyes were glued to Yun Jian as if she wanted to bore a hole through Yun Jian with her glare. Just as Wu Zhizhi was glaring at Yun Jian, the people around them saw Zhang Zhifan, who had put on his suit again, walk to Yun Jian and tell Yun Jian in public. Sister Jian, I've already donated 1 billion yuan to CI Xiong organization as per your order in the name of New Cruise's director. I believe that the money will be distributed to the poor mountainous areas in no time. Hopefully, it can bring an improvement to the children's standard of living. A. Chapter 2086. Zhang Zifan's words were calm when they left his mouth, but when they reached everyone's ears, it was as simple as asking, "Have you eaten today?" But these simple words gave people a sense of surprise that brought them back to their senses. Wu Zhizhi, who was glaring at Yun Jian earlier, froze when she heard the question. New cruise? When the children were abducted by African Bao and the rest, no one thought much about it. Why would Qing Yu, Zhang Zhifan, and the rest appear here so coincidentally? But now, could you be New Cruise's current CEO, Mr. Zhang Zhifan? Mu Yu looked at Zhang Zhifan with shock and surprise on her face. Slowly, her surprised face turned into a look of deep worship. Zhang Zhifan was tugging at the red collar of his suit. When he heard Mu Yu, Zhang Zhifan turned to look at her. Then, in front of everyone, Zhang Zhifan nodded at Mu Yu. That's right. His every move and every word was filled with the elegance of an upper-class person. Zhang Zhifan was now adept at being New Cruise's CEO. Outsiders would not be able to tell that Zhang Zhifan was a street gangster. It was also because of this that Zhang Zhifan was able to promote New Cruise to other countries. Oh my God! Are you really New Cruise's CEO, Zhang Zhifan? Although I've never seen your photo, I've always regarded you as the person I respect the most. I heard that in the past 2 years, your methods in the business world have left your peers far behind. In just 1 year you stepped onto the national stage, and then, in just 2 years you stepped onto the international stage. We're all proud of you. You're our role model. I didn't expect to meet you here today. I am so excited. Mu Yu stood before Zhang Zhifan in excitement like a person standing before her idol. She could not contain her excitement. Zhang Zhifan did not expect that someone would worship him so much. After hearing this, he felt a little embarrassed. How am I awesome? Haha, it's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise is where it is today. I only look impressive on the surface, but Sister Jian is the real business elite. Zhang Zhifan scratched his head, laughed twice, and then said. Only now did the crowd regain their senses. From the moment Zhang Zhifan revealed Yun Jian's identity as New Cruise's director, everyone was stunned and in disbelief. The mysterious director of New Cruise was actually an 18-year-old girl. Oh my God! If Yun Jian is the director of New Cruise, how old was she when she started New Cruise? Liang Xiumin exclaimed. Wasn't the difference a little too big? They were just ordinary university students. Even now, when they had no money, they were still reaching out to their families. What about Yun Jian? Could it be that she started a company when she was in junior high? Now that she was in university, her company was already officially operating on an international platform. Wu Ziji's eyes bulged and her face darkened, but she chose to remain silent. His expression was extremely ugly. It was as if she had gone to look down on someone back then and that person had flown to the sky to look down on her. Compared to New Cruise, Wu Ziji's father's company was nothing. Moreover, Wu Ziji had mocked her before, so she looked like she had lost all hope. However, that was not the end of it. After Zhang Zhifan heard what Liang Xiumin said, his thoughts drifted back to the past. He chuckled and spoke without hesitation in front of everyone. Sister Jian came to us who were living at the bottom of society when she was 15, saying that she wanted to start a car marketing company. We were surprised back then, but we followed Yun Jian's lead. Actually, it's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise can go international. She knows so many top international figures that we can't even count them with our fingers. Most importantly, those people listen to her. See, I used Sister Jian's name to negotiate with those people and everything went smoothly. There's one thing those people said about Sister Jian the most, and I agree with it a lot. It's that she, Yun Jian, is a legend that will never be defeated. Chapter 2087. She, Yun Jian, is a legend who will never be defeated. This was the highest compliment given by the international tycoons, businessmen, and politicians. It was also what Zhang Zhifan believed to be the truth. Yun Jian was truly a legend who would never be defeated. Whether it was Xinjiang town back then, Longmen City, Min City's military school, or the University of Rivertown now. Wherever Yun Jian was, there would be a legend. Knowing that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, it was shocking news to Wu Ziji, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, Mu Yu, and the rest. Of course, her identity as the director was enough to shock Wu Ziji, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, and the rest. Now, Zhang Zhifan was saying that Yun Jian knew so many international tycoons that they could not even count them with their fingers. Moreover, those people obeyed Yun Jian's every word? What was even more shocking was that New Cruise's success today was all thanks to Zhang Zhifan. Now that they heard Zhang Zhifan's words, if it were not for Yun Jian's acquaintance with the international tycoons, without Yun Jian paving the way, Zhang Zhifan alone would never have the capability to lead New Cruise to the international stage. Yun Jian was the most important person for New Cruise to be where it was today. Wu Ziji, who cared a lot about her family background and wanted to compare her family background with her classmates and friends in school, had a dark expression on her face. Wu Ziji's face, which was obviously displeased after learning about Yun Jian's identity, was lowered slightly as she stared at the ground. Wu Ziji, who was initially blushing but now had a dark expression and was gripping the hem of her shirt tightly as if she was not going to back down, was now silent. Perhaps she was shocked by Yun Jian's behavior earlier, or perhaps she felt that her family background was not as good as Yun Jian's. Wu Ziji kept her head down, but she was actually so angry that she was about to spit blood. Some people wished that the world would come to see them when they were in the limelight. However, if they were slapped in the face, they would be like a football that was holding its breath, standing aside without a sound. Big brothers and sisters, my mother made mung bean soup for all of you. It's not much, but she said it's to thank you for saving me just now. Just then, a child dressed in dirty clothes walked over with a basket filled with a few bowls of mung beans. There weren't many bowls of mung beans in the basket, she said as she walked. This child was one of the 5 children who had just been kidnapped. In this poor mountainous area, mung bean soup was only taken out during festivals. Grab a small handful of mung bean soup and put it into porridge that had more water than rice. It was a fresh luxury. Today, the child's mother cooked all the mung beans. Her generosity was indescribable. The child's arrival made the few people who were talking just now shut their mouths. The child also obediently took out bowls of mung bean soup from her basket and handed them to everyone. The child was reluctant to eat it herself and gave all the delicious food to others. At this time, when the child handed the mung bean soup to Wu Ziji slapped the bowl of mung bean soup in the child's hand to the ground. Don't give it to me. I don't know how many people have eaten this bowl. There are so many bacteria on it. It's so dirty. Also, have you washed your hands? Has your mother washed her hands? I think you people here are so poor that you can't even afford to wash your hands. It's so dirty. A. Chapter 2088. Wu Zhizhi was already full of anger, and when the child handed her the mung bean soup, Wu Zhizhi's anger flared up. He really King sent himself to her door to be abused. After Wu Zhizhi smashed the bowl the child handed over, the child stared at the mung bean soup on the floor and licked his lips greedily. Big sister, it's not good to waste food like this. None of your business. Anyway, I won't eat the junk food you give me. It's all germs. I'm such a noble person. How can I eat food like this? Wu Zhizhi yelled at the child. At that moment, Yun Jian, who had been silent all this while, narrowed her eyes slightly. Noble? Yun Jian sneered mockingly. What? Isn't that the case? Wu Zhizhi replied confidently. You should be the one with germs all over your body, Yun Jian suddenly said to Wu Zhizhi. What do you mean? Wu Zhizhi instantly had an ominous feeling after hearing that. In the next second, Yun Jian turned on her phone and pressed on the button twice. Everyone heard the conversation between Shan Qingjiang and another boy from Yun Jian's phone. That conversation made Wu Zhizhi collapse on the spot. Qingjiang, are you really not going to accept treatment? This was the boy who was talking to Shan Qingjiang. Is treatment useful? Anyway, I'm going to King die anyway. If I can drag one down to hell with me, it's one more. Hee, I was King harmed by someone back then. This was what Shen Qingjiang said. How long have you been aware that you have AIDS? Not long. After I ked Wu Zhizhi and confirmed that she also has AIDS, I'll ck other girls. Even if I die, I'll drag them down with me. Hee. You're really not kind. The girls who met you are really unlucky. I'm not kind? That's because I was forced. ck. I ked the tch Wu Zhizhi so many times. This time, I'll definitely infect her with AIDS. That tch didn't ask for a condom when she did it with you. Tsk. I was just bluffing a little. Why didn't you obediently let me shoot you in? From the voice that came from Yun Jian's phone, everyone present could naturally tell that the person on the phone was Shen Qingjiang. As for who that boy was, no one cared. The main thing is the breaking news in this phone call. No. Impossible. Qingjiang, that's impossible, right? How could you? How could you? Then how could you be me? After hearing this phone call, Wu Zhizhi's head exploded. She looked at Shen Qingjiang in panic and shook her head. She was so scared that her lips instantly turned pale. Hearing this news was even scarier than being frightened by Yun Jian. AIDS can be transmitted through sexual contact, blood, and mother to child. In other words, he had sex with someone who had AIDS. Or some people would go to small places to donate blood. The syringe used to draw blood from an AIDS patient and then draw your blood, which would cause an infection. Or it could be that the mother contracted AIDS and passed it on to the next generation. These were the three most common ways of AIDS transmission. And the reason why Wu Zhizhi was so scared was because AIDS had a relatively long incubation period after infection. Usually, it would take 7 to 10 years for the infection to occur. After the infection, the survival period would not exceed 2 years. To put it bluntly, contracting AIDS was equivalent to having half a foot in the coffin. There was no doubt that one would die. Even now, there was no cure for AIDS, much less now in 2002. Now was not the time for Wu Zhizhi to be calculative about her and Shen Qingjiang being found out. She looked at Shen Qingjiang and trembled all over. She couldn't have been infected with AIDS, right? Shen Qingjiang suddenly heard the conversation between him and his buddy from Yun Jian's phone. He was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Yun Jian with a nonchalant expression. Hee, since I've been found out, then I have nothing to hide. But why do you have the chat records between me and my buddy? Shen Qingjiang was bewildered. Why would Yun Jian have the chat records between him and his buddy? Just as he asked this, he saw Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him, wave the phone in her hand and say coldly in front of everyone, I forgot to tell you that I'm a hacker too. A. Chapter 2089. Yun Jian was a hacker. The crowd's expression changed when they heard Yun Jian's words. She was a hacker. However, with Yun Jian's identity as New Cruise's director, the crowd was not too surprised. After all, there were different levels among hackers. If she was just a regular hacker, it would not be surprising. Moreover, Yun Jian graduated from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. It would not be strange if she knew how to hack. At this moment, the crowd was shocked that Shen Qingjiang was an AIDS patient. Shen Qingjiang, why you did it on purpose? Did you deliberately infect me with AIDS? You're worse than a beast. Go to hell. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Wu Zhizhi was scared out of her wits when she found out the truth. She cursed at Shen Qingjiang. If no one stopped her, she would have pounced on Shen Qingjiang to kill him. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Yun Jian. She had merely overheard Shen Qingjiang's conversation with his brother. She was surprised when she first heard it. She did not expect Wu Zhizhi, who cared so much about hygiene and safety, to end up like this. Of course, Wu Zhizhi deserved to be punished for her sins. At the same time, she had to remind her that it was better for girls to have self-respect and self-respect. Otherwise, more sinister and terrifying things in this world would befall you. Wu Zhizhi was picked up by the car sent by her father on the same day. Naturally, Shen Qingjiang could not stay in Wuzhen any longer. Wuzhen was much more peaceful after the two of them left. Qing Yu and Zhang Zhifan left Wuzhen on the same day as well. 2 days later, the money donated by New Cruise to the poor mountainous areas all over the country was distributed. Wuzhen and the few villages around it received quite a sum of money that could be used to improve their families' living conditions. Wuzhen Primary School received a decent amount of capital as well. On this day, the principal bought some textbooks and a new backpack for each of the children in Wuzhen Primary School. This made the children so happy that they all jumped up and down with their school bags in hand. Oh, yeah. We have new backpacks. We have new backpacks. That's great. I want Ultraman's bag. That little bunny bag is mine. The principal and the female teacher couldn't help but smile when they saw the children picking out their new school bags and jumping around happily. When Yun Jian saw this, her eyes narrowed slightly. The next morning was Saturday, the earliest morning of the day. There were 2 more days before Yun Jian had to go back to school. The 7 days of volunteer teaching in the countryside also came to an end on the weekend. The children still didn't know that the big brothers and sisters who brought them laughter were leaving. At that time, the children didn't have to go to school. She dragged Yun Jian and the others to the hill where the sheep were grazing. The surrounding children were playing with a group of university students. Yun Jian was lying on the lawn bathed in the weak morning sunlight. At the side, there were 4 or 5 sheep bleating as they surrounded Yun Jian. The sunlight was very glaring. Yun Jian was mesmerized by it. She closed her eyes to feel the weak and glaring rays of the morning sun. Suddenly, a black shadow blocked the glaring sunlight. Yun Jian opened her eyes and saw a handsome face. This handsome face had sharp eyebrows, a pair of sharp eyes, and those thin lips. Coupled with his perfect facial features, Yun Jian couldn't take her eyes off him. Yun Jian was about to speak when Ce suddenly bent down and pressed her down on the lawn. His tall body pressed against hers and he blocked her mouth with his thin lips. There were a few sheep bleating nearby, so Liang Xiumin, Mu Yao, and the others who were chasing and playing with a group of children didn't notice Ce's sudden appearance. They also didn't realize that Ce had appeared out of nowhere and pressed Yun Jian down on the lawn. It was an action that could easily be misunderstood. After kissing the little mouth that he had been longing for, Ce finally let go of Yun Jian and bent down to her ear. His handsome face that was infuriating yet infuriatingly handsome wore a mischievous grin. Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful. How I want to become one with you right here, so that you can never leave my sight. Ce's words made Yun Jian blush. She was about to pinch him. At this moment, a sheep beside him bleated comfortably. Bah! Then, the sheep shook its body and pooped out a pile of feces. Ce and Yun Jian were beside them. The moment they heard the sheep bleat, Ce grabbed Yun Jian's waist and rolled to the side, avoiding the sheep's poop. Just as they dodged the sheep's poop, a child suddenly saw Ce hugging Yun Jian's slim waist and rolling on the lawn. The child clapped his hands and exclaimed innocently. Look, look! Big brother is hugging big sister and rolling around on the lawn. Hee hee hee! It's so fun! His exclamation made everyone around them, including the children and university students from Jiang City, turned to look. Chapter 2090. After avoiding that pile of sheep poop, Ce and Yunjian were exposed in front of everyone. Ce was hugging Yunjian's slender waist and didn't hide himself in Yunjian. Hence, everyone saw Ce hugging Yunjian and rolling around on the grass. A few university girls inadvertently caught a glimpse of Ce's handsome face and then looked at Ce and Yunjian rolling around on the grass in an extremely ambiguous position. They couldn't help but blush. Ce, who was discovered, didn't panic at all. On the contrary, he hugged Yunjian and rolled around on the grass before pulling her up. It was as if he hadn't done anything bad just now. Who is this man? There's actually such a handsome man in this world? Could he be her boyfriend? When the girls saw Ce's handsome face, they couldn't react for a long time. However, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yao walked over with a few children. Yunjian, your boyfriend actually came all the way here to look for you. You're so lucky. You're not like my boyfriend, who only comes when I pay. Liang Xiumin complained. Liang Xiumin's boyfriend, Jin Yu, was a gangster who lived near Jiang City. He had met Liang Xiumin in Jiang City. Jin Yu was one of the people Yunjian and the others had met at the beach in Zhou Mountain. Jin Yu's boyfriend was considered a weirdo. It was one thing for a grown man to come looking for Liang Xiumin and ask her for travel expenses, but he even brought a group of men and women with him. He even wanted Liang Xiumin to pay for their travel expenses, meals, and even the money for their entertainment. He was a typical gigolo. We're already married, Ce frowned and explained when he heard Liang Xiumin say that he was Yunjian's boyfriend. When Liang Xiumin heard that, she chuckled and said, I know. Then she nudged Yunjian with her hand and revealed a smile that said, You're so lucky. This time, Ce didn't take out her marriage certificate or the fake pregnancy test report. Mu Yu, on the other hand, was stunned when she heard Liang Xiumin's words. Then she asked Liang Xiumin in a daze, Junior, you have a boyfriend? Yeah, what's wrong? Liang Xiumin didn't notice the displeasure in Mu Yaoyao's tone as she replied. Nothing. In a place where no one could see, Mu Xiao clenched her fists and gritted her teeth as she spoke. Yunjian saw Mu Yaoyao's actions, but she didn't say anything. At this moment, Yunjian's hand was being held tightly by Ce. At this moment, someone tugged at the hem of her clothes. Yunjian glanced sideways and saw Lu Ying, who was only as tall as her waist, tugging at her clothes as she stared at her with her large dark eyes. Before Yunjian could speak, Lu Ying spoke first. She looked at Yunjian and then at Ce and asked, Are big sister and big brother going to have children in the future? Lu Ying really didn't stop until she said something shocking. After he said that, the people around him pretended to cough a few times. However, Lu Ying really didn't know what was wrong with her words. She just stared at Yunjian with her large eyes and waited for Yunjian's reply. Yunjian blinked. Before she could say anything, Liang Xiumin reached out and gently flicked Lu Ying's forehead and said, Yes, yes, yes. They're in that relationship. When Lu Ying heard Liang Xiumin's words, she suddenly clapped her hands and said, That's great. Big brother and big sister are so beautiful. Big brother and big sister's children will be especially beautiful in the future. After Lu Ying said this, a little boy next to her added, But to have a baby, don't they have to fight before they can get pregnant? My mother and father fought and I had a little brother. Nonsense. My father said that to have a baby, it's fine as long as they eat and sleep well. There's no need to fight at all. A little girl with 2 ponytails stood out and retorted. But why did Dong Dong from the neighboring village say that as long as you kiss, you'll have children? He also said that boys and girls sitting together in class can get pregnant too. Chapter 2091. Regarding the question of how to have a child, the children all talked about it. A group of innocent children, discussing how to have a child, the result of the discussion really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. The few university students standing by the side listened to the discussion of this group of children and felt awkward for a moment. However, the children were completely unaware of how shocking their words were. Hearing this child say that boys and girls would get pregnant when they sat together in class, a 10-year-old girl suddenly burst into tears. Wah 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 wah. Then I've been desk mate with a boy for a year. Am I pregnant now? Am I going to have a child soon? I don't want to wah wah wah. After this little girl cried, the surrounding girls were all shocked by the little girl's words, and perhaps affected by the atmosphere. One by one, they all cried out. Ah? Does that mean I'm pregnant too? I don't want to be pregnant. Wah wah wah, I've also been deskmate with a boy for 2 years. Will I have 2 children? I don't want to. Wah wah wah, Mom said that if I get pregnant before marriage, I'll be drowned in a pig cage. In less than 2 minutes, the group of children who were running and jumping around just now, all the girls stood in place and cried. The boys looked at the girls in a daze, not knowing whether to comfort them or not. This scene progressed so quickly that it surprised the group of university students present. Why are they all crying? Liang Xiaomin looked at the scene in front of her in a daze, not knowing what to do. You won't get pregnant. Just when the group of girls was crying and gasping for breath, and the surrounding people didn't know what to do, Yun Jian's voice suddenly sounded. Perhaps this voice had a trace of the majesty of a king. The group of girls instantly stopped crying. Sister, is it true? Lu Ying wiped her tears, raised her head and looked at Yun Jian with a pair of big black eyes, blinked her eyelashes that were still stained with tears, took 2 deep breaths and asked. Of course it's true, I never lie. Yun Jian's red arc raised, and she smiled faintly. Perhaps Yun Jian's words had a certain charm. The girls present really stopped crying. Although there was a small interlude, everyone had a great time in the morning and afternoon. Ce didn't leave at night, and stayed at Lu Ying's house. Originally, Liang Xiaomin and Yun Jian slept on the same bed, but Liang Xiaomin consciously slept in the same room as Lu Ying and Lu Shi at night. Ce didn't do anything strange to Yun Jian since they were in someone else's house. They woke up early the next morning for the return journey. Hearing that the big sisters and big brothers were leaving, the children were already awake when the sun was still up. Putting on the big cotton-padded jackets they bought with New Cruise's donation, they stood by the road in Wu Town to bid farewell to Yun Jian and her friends. The children's thin bodies were no longer cold, and they were no longer wearing thin clothes that were as thin as if they were naked. Although the children didn't know how they got pregnant, they knew that it was all thanks to Yun Jian that they were able to wear the big cotton-padded jackets, new school bags, new textbooks, and new stationery. Sister, will you come back to see us again? The children stood on the muddy road that led to the city in Wu Town, their little eyes staring at Yun Jian, their eyes filled with longing. Yes. Yun Jian nodded as she looked at the stars in the children's eyes. Sister, you said that Mommy will come back, right? Lu Ying couldn't bear to see Yun Jian leave, so she hugged her brother tightly and stared at Yun Jian with her little eyes. Yun Jian was silent for 2 seconds before replying Lu Ying, yes. She didn't know if Lu Ying's mother would come back, but she knew that she couldn't let a child's longing for their mother die. Sister, thank you. As Lu Ying spoke, she seemed to have recalled something. She took out a wrinkled old photo and handed it to Yun Jian with trembling hands. Sister, this is the only photo of Mommy that I have. I'm giving it to you. Sister, you don't have to look for Mommy on purpose. Just help me tell Mommy if you accidentally see her. Ying isn't Mommy's burden anymore. Ying can take care of little brother and grandma. Ying doesn't need Mommy to take care of us. But Ying misses Mommy. Little brother misses Mommy too. He wants Mommy to come home and see Ying. Sister, can I? 8. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.